Yeah, I think we'll wait for like maybe 3 more minutes, then we'll get started. In the meantime, let me resend the information, the instructions again, so that everyone who's here can do so. And feel free to just ask questions in the chat if at any point in time you have any questions. Yeah, I think I'll repeat myself one last time. So if you have not done so already, you can download the Adobe XD as well as the hands-on files using the links in the chat or the links in the emails that you received or the links in the message in MS Teams. So you can go through all these channels to find links. So for those of you guys who may have some experience in UI UX design already, or especially in UI, you might wonder why am I doing Adobe XD instead of like let's say Figma, which is usually more popular these days. So just to quickly say some stuff before we start. So Figma is definitely popular in terms of it can be collaborative nowadays. We'll get to try both by the end of these 2 sessions, right? So we'll try Figma next week. But generally, I think Adobe XD has some features that make it more powerful, right? And it's transferable. So if you have a good mastery of Adobe XD, naturally you should do well for. You can actually use Figma because they're designed to be quite similar. They want to steal each other's users, right? They want to compete for the market share. So generally the whole interface of these applications are quite similar. So there's not much difference in terms of the learning one or the other. Can you transfer work from Figma to Adobe XD? From Figma to Adobe XD, I think likely it cannot. I know for sure that Adobe XD to Figma it cannot be done. You can do it. You can convert everything in the Adobe XD into a SVG, which is like vector graphics, right? And then import it into Figma. But that makes it such that you cannot edit anything really. Like if you have text and so on, you can't really just say I want to change the text content or I want to change the text size and so on. You can't really do that anymore. But I'm not very sure about from Figma to Adobe XD. Let me get back to you on this. Let me write that down. Let me note that down. But highly likely is cannot. I think I can Google and should be able to find out. Okay. Yeah, I think thanks for your questions. Yeah, I think I'll get started. So welcome to today's UI UX workshop. So today's session will be more about UX. Then next week will be about UI. Because I think as of this phase, this current milestone 1 is coming up, as well as the first part of milestone 1, I believe that UX design is more important at this stage. Both are important, but I feel like UX may be more important as of now. So today we'll have a bit of hands-on activities, but it's mostly me talking about what UI UX is about, why UI UX, and how to do UX design, basically. Yeah, so to introduce myself a bit, I'm currently a year 2 computer science undergraduate, right? And I really love building apps that look good and do good. Right? So I've been doing UI UX stuff since 2 years back. I think during this internship that I was doing UX design, but I was absolutely terrible at the start. I didn't know what I was doing. So since then I've learned quite a lot, and I'm really hoping to share what I've learned. So as of this summer, I'm currently interning at Facebook, as well as being an advisor for a few teams. I think I see some of my teams in this session as well. So together with me, I have Tian Hao, who is the facilitator for this session. So he will be assisting me along the way. And if you have any questions, just ask. Either me or him will be helping you with the questions. Right. So let us get started. So I think all of us may have heard UI UX along the way. somehow, right? You may have heard this term before, but you may not exactly be sure what's the difference between like UX and UI. So just to be sure, clear, right? UX stands for user experience, and UI stands for user interface, right? So UX normally is about all aspects of the user's interaction with the company, its services and its products. So I'm talking more in terms of business sense here, right? Is that it's a very end-to-end thing, right? I'll talk a bit more about this in the next slide, but it's really from the very beginning of how this person even knows about this product or knows about you or your team or your company and so on, all the way until they really become a loyal customer, right? So this is really from end to end. While user interface, right, only focuses on what the user is interacting with when they use your product or service. So for example, some people like to restrict it to like applications, like software applications. They talk about like the UI of your application, like the buttons, the text, and so on. But personally, I think that UI UX is not really restricted to like software products. It can really be hardware as well. So like stuff like when you use like maybe let's say use a table, right? Even the table, the interface that interacting with is like the table itself and like the surfaces and so on, right? That's also interface. And how well a user can interact with it is a thing, right? It's also design, right? So actually, there's this guy called Don Norman, right? He's basically like the kind of like founding father of user experience, right? He worked in Apple back in the early 1990s, 1980s around there. And then he's the one who actually invented this term user experience. So this is definition, right? Is that it encompasses all aspects, right, of the end user's interactions with the company services and products, right? So example of this is, for example, like an airline company, right? Where do you think the user experience begins for airline? It's not really about when they start on board your airplane and so on. It's really from the beginning where you introduce an idea in their minds that they should be going for a trip, right? And they should be using your airline for it, right? That's the start of the user experience actually, is to get them to have this idea in their mind. And the user experience doesn't really end when they get off the plane as well, right? You need to think about how to make them, how do you make it such that they will go for take the return trip back using your airline as well? And how to make it such that they become a loyal customer, right? They only stick to using your airlines and they gather all the different benefits that they can have from using your airlines repeatedly, right? So actually this whole thing is the user experience, right? It's not really about just the moment they interact with your actual product, which may be like your service on the plane and so on. But it's really more about from the very beginning, the acquisition of this user all the way to making user a loyal customer, right? Then this person also invented this term called user-centered design. But before we get to that, now that we know what UX is, maybe we can talk about what is UX design, right? So from Wikipedia, you can see there's this the definition here. So design is really a plan or specification, right, for some sort of construction of a system or object, right, so that you can do some sort of activity or process. So similarly, UX design is really about planning how something looks and works, make sure that when you use it, it's easy and enjoyable, right? So there's this concept of planning that's going on here. So for those of you who are more about like the building side, sure, building the product itself is part of the process, but the process of UX is bigger than that, right? So what exactly is UX about and UX design about, and what's the importance of it? So so there's this concept of like the idea versus execution, right? How do you know what to build, and how do you know how do you do things differently, such that you are differentiating yourself from your competitors or like the other people that are doing all these things? Because there are a lot of brilliant minds in this world, there's so many great ideas out there, and generally people can come up with the same ideas. For example, like Uber, right? They thought of like car sharing, right? But then nowadays there's so many other competitors as well. Lyft, there's Grab here as well in Southeast Asia. There's so many. There's Gojek, right? Everyone's doing the same thing. So what exactly is the one that makes them different, right? It's really about the execution, right? It's really about the user experience. That is what makes them better than the others, right? So at this point, UX is a differentiating factor when many different teams have the same idea. And the fact is actually finding the right idea is also not easy. I think a lot of you guys may have like the idea of like, oh, I want to build this app that does this. But then your question is like, what do I build? How should it look like? What will the user enjoy using? You can't really answer these questions very effectively. And then you often get stuck. Every time you want to build, you want to add a button or so, you'll be wondering, how should the button look like? Right? How should the whole interface look like? The development is very slow. So that's why you want to plan. Right? When you plan, right, you can just look at your designs like, oh, this is how it should look like. And then you can straight away answer the question and start building. So I think most teams, I think you guys are all very smart people. I think CS, generally, you guys are all very smart, all brilliant people. You guys can build things on. Right? I give you time, you guys can build anything you want. But the question is, you guys don't really know what to build sometimes. Right? So that's why finding the right idea is also part of the process. And it's and it's not easy as well. right? So that's why you want to do UX design, which helps you answer both the idea problem and the execution problem. So there's a few key factors in UX design, right? The first three actually are the key ones. The third one is a bonus. The last one is a bonus, sorry. So the first one is about meeting a user's needs. So there's no point if you build a beautiful app, but you don't really solve the problem at all. Right? No one will use your app. Right? If you don't meet the user's needs, there's no effect. Secondly, is that it should be easy to use and easy to learn. So there's this thing about I don't know if you guys have used app before, but you feel like you don't know what's going on. Right? You need to have a user manual, you know, to figure out how to use the app. And without the user manual, there's no way you can learn it properly. Right? If you have ever faced this kind of situations, like for example, if like you serve the army, right, you might have used all the army software, right, which are incredibly confusing, right? It's very, very poorly designed. Then you actually know firsthand how painful it is to use app that is not easy to use and not easy to learn, right? So the goal of any UX design is to have built some sort of product, right? That when people use it for the first time, it's as if they use it for the whole lives already, right? The goal is that it's as if they don't need to learn to use it all, right? Of course, easier said than done. And number three is, of course, you must give the user freedom and control. Like, for example, if you go to an application, like go to a website or something, then keep redirecting you to some random pages or like some pop-ups that just cannot control at all. It's very frustrating. You probably leave the website after a while, right? So there's aspect of control and freedom as well. The user should be able to decide what they want to do. And lastly, of course, if you can surprise and delight the user, it'll be great. For example, you want to do a delivery service, maybe at the end, you have a delivery man, they'll give like a short joke on while they deliver the item as well, or something like that, some sort of thing to make people's days, right? That's a great idea, and it helps to boost the whole user experience as well, right? So let's talk about some examples. I think it's a bit abstract right now, so let's talk about some examples. So I think some guys may have gone to your friend's house before, and you see like there's a microwave there or so on, right? And you try to use it, then you realize, holy crap, I have no idea how to use this thing, right? There's so many buttons, there's so many things to press, and I don't know what is what, right? So actually, to some extent, you can say that this is you can say it's a bit of a user interface thing, like it's not very well designed, but it's more the user experience, right? Is that you can't really pick it up fast. You must look at buttons carefully and figure out what exactly to press, right? And this is really a pretty good design already. I'm sure there are worse designs than this for microwaves, right? So let's compare an example that's maybe slightly better. So let's talk about a toaster, right? I think everyone here knows how to use a toaster. Just put a bread in, piece of bread in, and then just push down the thing, right? Push down the lever, and then you're done, right? Just wait for it to pop up. And in fact, some toasters are so well designed that people haven't thought about this problem of, let's say your bread comes out, right? Your toast comes out and it's not as toasted as you want it to be. You want to toast a little bit more, but you don't really know how to adjust everything, right? Sometimes you don't have a button that just says just a bit more, right? You just press a button, the toast will go in for a while more, and it pop up after a short while, and it's a bit more toasted, right? So people have really considered this whole user experience from like in this perspective, right? So this is an example of where UX design has been done well, right? They have figured out that this is the problem people the problem that people face, and then they have resolved it, right? In a way that's very surprising as well. Then here's another one that you guys may have experienced in your day-to-day life, is that you have gone to a door, you try to pull or push it, and then you realize, holy crap, it's the other way around, right? So research has shown, or at least this person, remember I talked about Don Norman, right? The person who came out UX design, right? He called these doors Norman doors. So the truth is, it's not your fault, okay? It's not that you are not as smart as it's basically the fact is it's the doors that's poorly designed. Okay. So if the door looks like intuitively it should be pulled or pushed by you, but it's actually the other way around, that means it's very poorly designed. So you look at this G field, for example, like if the fact that the door has a handle, intuitively it tells you that you should be pulling, right? You shouldn't really be pushing, but it's a push door. So that's how it goes, right? It's that there's certain things to it that can make such that people expect one thing, but what happens to the other? Then this is also a poor UX. And maybe a good example of good UX design is I don't know if you guys know about this, but recently Google had their Google I/O event, right? It's where they share about the products. It's where they share about the upcoming plans and all their features and functions and stuff, right? And this year, because it's all virtual, they decided to do it in a form of game. So you can go around and you can interact with bump into objects to interact with them, and then there's a lot of things where they can bump into like their different displays, and they tell you information about like their Firebase, Flutter. I think some guys may be using these applications, maybe using this software, this technology. They talk about like their Google Chrome, right, and so on, their web, and etc. Android, and so on. Yeah, so clearly this meets all four criteria of the good UX design, right? Firstly is that it meets the user's needs, right? You can go out, interact stuff, and you can find out information about the Google. Secondly is that it's easy to use, it's easy to learn. Right? You can just press your arrow keys, or if you're not used to arrow keys, you can use the mouse to navigate. Right? Everything works very well. Yeah, then it's also easy. It has freedom and control. You can go anywhere you want. It's gamified. It's super gamified. So that's like you can collect equipment and decorate your user and so on. But and lastly, of course, it's a surprise and delight. Right? When people use it, I think everyone was surprised when they saw it. Right? And I know of people, including me, who spend a lot of time on this to collect all the different equipment and everything. It was really fun. So this is an example of a good UX design. Right? The user experience is incredible. But of course, you can agree that this is Google, right? They're a big company. Of course, they are the people to design and do that. But you are only a two-people team, right? Two-man team. How can you achieve something similar? Well, the thing is about Orbital is like you're kind of doing a lot of roles at the same time. You're both the business person that going down on the ground to talking to people or asking people questions. You're the UX designer, UI designer to design everything. You're also the developer who builds everything. So unfortunately, this is the nature of Orbital. So I think it's a good thing to learn everything through Orbital. But yeah, I mean, live with it. But I think definitely your teams can achieve something good by following the steps I'll be sharing later. So once again, back to Don Norman, he said this very, I think it's a quote that kind of resonates with a lot of people, is that people generally are adaptable such that they can kind of eventually figure out how to use a certain thing, a certain artifact, right? But good designers or skillful designers will make large parts of this burden simply vanish, right? By making the artifact suitable for the user. So you don't want to make such that the user spends more time learning on your product or service, right? You want them to make it such that when they use it, it's as if they use it for the whole life. So this is what Don Norman calls user-centered design. And he's the one who invented this term. So if you heard of this term like user-centered design, user-centered, etc., he's a person who came up with all this. So it's quite incredible. This man is he's basically the founding father, right? Okay, wait. Yeah. So at the core of UX, ultimately is the user. Okay, so everything about user experience is the user. Okay, so once remember this, okay, it's not about you, it's not about the company or the team, it's really about the user. Okay, so any questions so far? Feel free to ask in the chat. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. So let me know if you have any questions. Okay. If not, I'll quickly jump into the next part already. So the next section is about user experience design phases, or what they call the UX design cycle. So this thing is a cycle. Okay, it's a hint already. You must repeat, right? So you can see on the left side here, I have a few stages: understand, analyze, ideate, prototype, and validate. So okay, so some of you guys who have exposure to UX design, you might argue that, hey, this is not the terms that I've learned before. So that's the thing. There's a lot of different terminologies. A lot of people they kind of like segregate the process a bit differently. Sometimes they have a bit of they like to call understand like objectives, right? And most places they'll combine idea and prototype into one. Like they call it just call it idea, or they just call it prototyping or mock-ups, right? Sometimes they call these kind of different terms. I broke it down into two because I feel like this is it's a bit of a big step. It's a very fat step that I think can be broken down into two, and it's easier to teach that way. And then I took out one last step that a lot of people have is like either iterate or build, which is quite common sense. After you finish, you kind of build the thing or you iterate. So I think sure I can leave it there, but like just I feel like this makes more sense. But once again, people call it different terms, but ultimately it kind of means the same thing. So the process is kind of similar across all the different terminologies you see outside. Okay, so don't be confused. You see that people call it or instead of analyze, they call it I don't know. I'm not sure. Research, I call it research, right? Also, it's the same thing, roughly the same thing. Okay, so let's talk about the first step. The first phase, to understand. So what's the question you want to explain, or you want to answer? Sorry, in this step, right? In this phase is the question of what does my experience need to accomplish? Okay, so roughly I'll go through all the phases and I'll talk about the key question that's behind each phase. So at this phase, you're asking like, what does my experience accomplish? What should I want to bring? What do I want to bring to the table, right? And this phase is very important. Okay, I think some guys may have already feel like, oh, I've already passed this phase. I have my idea for my orbital already, and so on. Okay, so just the FYI, this is like a cycle that can repeat. After you finish your first iteration, you come back here again and you can think about this problem again, right? And this is a very important problem because, and an important phase to go through, because if you don't have this phase, what happens is teams, right, will just build ideas that they come up with internally, right? Maybe you came up with the idea. Maybe your boss told you, hey, I think this is a problem. Go and solve this problem, right? They think about there's some random idea that came out from nowhere. Management tells you to do it, so you do it, right? And they spend like weeks or months building the product. Then they launch the product and nobody uses it because it's not solving any problems, right? There's no problem. No one feels any pain points. No one will find any incentive to go and use your app if your app doesn't solve anything that the user actually feels like they're struggling with, or like they feel like it can be more convenient or something, right? If you don't do this phase, right, you just basically building stuff that won't launch, that won't take off lah. Okay, so I think at Orbital level, it's all right, but I think you guys can try to be ambitious and aim to like maybe try to get users to use your app if possible, right? Like you can always say like, oh, I built this idea to kind of challenge myself in terms of my technical skills and knowledge and so on. That's fine. That's okay. But eventually you want to build products that people use, right? I think ultimately you want people to try out what you have done. So you do want to make sure that you go through this phase properly, right? Sorry, excuse me. So what you can do is well, there's no other way than to talk to the people, right? There's really no other way lah. So one way, so you can interview your target users, right? And then this is if you already have something built already. So let's say you guys have built something already after your milestone 1. You come back to this phase again, right? Then you wonder like, what should I build next? Right? You can create surveys to get feedback from the users, from the existing users, right? And of course, what you can do is you can do this thing called contextual inquiries. You can head down to ground and do contextual inquiries. Yeah, I'll talk about this on the next slide. Right. But the most important thing is that you cannot make any assumptions about a user. Okay. I think a lot of people fall for this trap. Right. People think, oh, I mean, I will use the app this way. So naturally everyone should use the app this way, right? Or I think I'm potentially part of the target audience. So how I feel about this app should be how everyone feels about the app. If you think this way, you're absolutely wrong already. Okay. So this is ultimately the this is a big trap, and a lot of people fall for it. Okay, a lot even big companies fall for this. Okay, so the important thing is that you are not the user. Okay, number one thing that you must take note of is you're never the user. If you ever feel like you are the user, you are not the user. Okay, you're wrong. So let's talk about shared story lah. Yeah. Dove, for example, right? It's a big company that does like shampoos, body washes, and so on. Dove, right? I can't remember what country this was, right? But this country where Dove basically didn't sell very well, and they were like wondering what the hell was going on, right? We use our products, we love our products. Everyone else around the world loves the product. Why this country not loving our product, right? So at first they assumed that something was wrong lah. Maybe they didn't market it very well. Maybe they didn't advertise very well. But just like nothing just worked, right? So eventually they went to talk to the user. They took the time to go talk to the user, and they found something is that okay. So in this country, okay. So generally when you have straight hair, right, your hair is very oily, right? Your hair gets oilier. Generally straight hair is oilier. So Dove's shampoo, right? Their shampoo generally help to strip off the oils of the hair, which works very well for people who have oily hair, right? It works very well. So that the chemical that kind of does cleaning also strips off the oil. But the issue is that the people of this country generally had curly hair and very, very curly hair, and their curly hair tends to be drier. Generally, curly hair tends to be drier. And when they use the Dove products, right, it actually strips off so much of their hair oil, right, that the hair felt extremely dry afterwards, and they hated it, right? They didn't like it. So this is the actual reason why they didn't want to buy this shampoo, this Dove shampoo. Right? And when Dove found out about it, of course, once you find a problem, it's quite easy to solve, right? Then what they did is then they look through how they made the shampoo. They took off the stuff that kind of stripped the oil that did heavily, and they still left the remaining chemicals and so on inside, which helps to do cleaning as well. And they marketed it as a shampoo for curly hair, right? I think you can Google. It's like shampoo for your curls and so on. And that took off, right? That took off immediately because it solves the problem of having dry hair. So the important thing is that you cannot really assume that you are ever the user, or that just because you use the product yourself, you are the user, right? You need to go and research, right? Yeah. So there's this technique that's called contextual inquiry. Okay, it's very, very long here, but generally what it means is that you go down to the ground, talk to the people, and then let them do the work, and you watch them do the work, and then ask them questions while they're doing it. So because they're asking questions while they're doing the work, right? The data you collect is a lot more accurate, realistic, and rich, right? You can see for yourself what people do at work. People can say they do this, they do that, but actually during their work they don't do it at all, or they do something else, right? I think you guys can understand lah. You guys say that you watch lectures, right, and so on, but actually you skip lectures, maybe something like that. I mean, this is the thing lah, right? There's always the disparity between what people claim to do and what people actually do. So by observing them, you can figure out these problems, can figure out what's going on, the social aspects, technical aspects, physical aspects. They really can't understand from just interviewing them, like just from interviewing or surveying lah. You need to be there to watch, and then you find out what the tools that they use currently, right? Then after you can compare this data that you have observed from what you see the interview data, then you can actually discover what people are thinking and doing at different stages of the journey. Okay, so this is the important thing. Is that you want to find out what's the different stages, what's their mindset at each point, and the motivations that they have. And this way you can uncover what we call touch points and pain points. So touch points are basically points where the user can potentially interact with your product. Okay, so this is where your product can come in. So maybe you can say, oh, at this point, maybe like let's say you build an app for like delivery drivers. Like say, oh, at this point, this delivery driver should be using my app, right? They will use my app to do this. Say, okay, this is a touch point that my app can potentially try to hit, right? And then after you can uncover different unarticulated aspects of work, right? And then what aspects matter most to them. So you can target those aspects and make sure the problem works. So let me give an example as well. So this part, a lot of storytelling. I hope everyone's okay with it. So let's talk about Uber. Okay. So why did Uber take off so well, right? I know Uber is not really in Singapore anymore, but they're still doing well in other countries. And the fact is they took off, they did do very well at the beginning, and they're still doing very well in the country, in other countries. So how did they start out, right? So actually it all started with them actually identifying the pain points by going down to observe people doing the process of getting a cab and going to their locations, right? And go to their destinations. So they identified 2 key pain points from this whole process, which is not possible to identify without doing contextual inquiry. Right. So the first one is that people don't know. One pain point of the whole process is that the first part is the start of the journey. Is you getting a cab is not easy, and the most annoying thing is that you don't know when the cab will arrive. Okay. Let's say you call for a cab, you still don't know how long you'll take. You don't know how long you take for you to get kill a cab. So for those of you who travel a lot, you might know like if you book like a 2 a.m., 3 a.m. flight or like a 4 a.m. flight and so on, right? You tend to get to the airport early, right? Because you don't know how long it might take to get to the airport from like taking a cab and so on. Sometimes you don't know how long it take to get a cab. So generally people like to have a lot of buffer. You leave a lot of buffer at the start, right? So you make sure you're never late for your flight. But this is the pain point, right? People hate that. Right? Number 2 is that people hated getting off the cab. Okay. So that's number 2 thing is the pain point is that sometimes people don't know whether they have enough cash for the journey. Right. Let's say only at the end you realize, oh crap, I only have like $15, but the cab fare is $20. I'm dead. Right. Or they don't know whether credit card is accepted and so on. So this kind of payment thing is also a big pain point for them. Users didn't like it. And now look at what's happening, right? Look at Grab, look at Uber. Right? The moment you reach your journey, the amounts get deducted from credit card and you can just step off without thinking about the money at all. It's so seamless, right? It's so easy. So this is a pain point that's once again solved and can only be identified. You ask people about this, I don't think people will tell you that this is a pain point. I don't think I was aware of this as a pain point myself also, right? But if you go down and watch people do things, you can find out all these kind of things that people cannot really put into words. Okay, so this is an important thing as well. Okay, then next step is so once you found out about the data and so on, next step is about analyzing. You want to analyze the data and your users. Okay, so let's talk about what's the problem, what's the question you want to answer here. Okay, so this part is still a bit dry, so yeah, later on I'll show a bit more diagrams and pictures and so on. Okay. So what's the problem that I want to focus on? So now they have a lot of data, right? You don't know what exactly is the problem you want to solve. And generally, there's a lot of problems. People can experience a lot of problems along the way on. But not all problems are high priority problems that you want to target. Right? Some problems, even if you solve them, people may not use your product, right? Because it's just not big enough of a pain point. Right. So you want to analyze this data to make sure that you're solving the best problem that your time and effort is worth. So let's say you have already done and by end of June, let's say you build your product already, and you're thinking, what should I do for July? Right, for Orbital. So one way is you go and do your research. You go and ask your users, what would you think are some pain points and so on. You observe them using it. And then you analyze the data to find out what's the best feature I can build at this point for the remaining 1 month that's most worth my time. Okay. I don't want to go and build something that nobody will use anyways. You want to build something that people actually use. Right. So this is what we want to answer. And the data can come from many sources, right? It can come from like the interviews they conducted in the earlier phase, or can come from feedback from your existing products. If you have you're doing a web dev or like others, I think there's a lot of analytics services in this field. So for maybe for web, what's famous is Google Analytics. Although a lot of people don't like it nowadays because they claim that Google collects too much information. Right. But there's a lot of other slightly more discrete, or not discrete, slightly more privacy focused analytics services out there. You can try considering using them as well. You might want to find out more information about your user. So for real businesses, for example, the salary of the user matters a lot, right? And you don't want to price a product at the price range that's out of reach for your user, right? That's too expensive or too cheap. Some people don't like to buy things that are too cheap. So you want to find out how much your user generally earns. You can maybe use services like PayScale, which basically tell you about salaries of people. You can find out like if my product is for developers to use, I can find out how much developers you generally earn, right? Then from there I can price my thing accordingly, right? And of course, another way is look at what competitors are doing, right? I think you guys know about like Samsung, Apple. This is a very key example, right? Back and forth. There's always this kind of like looking at what the other people are doing, and then you just do the same thing, but slightly different. And it's a whole new thing already, right? So these are all places where you can do your research, your data from. And then what you can do with all this data is that you basically analyze lah. Okay, so there's a reason why this is so vague, right? It's a very vague step in the first place, because there's a lot of things you can do. Each team may have their own practices that works. So generally what it helps is you can distill all this data down to a few like diagrams, right? That's easy to digest to help to guide your future decisions, right? As much as possible. So some of these diagrams that you guys might have heard of, like there's this thing called Scamper, which I don't think many people use, but it's a diagram that some UX teams uses. User journey maps is slightly more common. Empathy maps also quite maybe not as common, but affinity diagrams quite common as well. Storyboards, there's also storyboards. I think storyboards are a bit more general. You can use it for a lot of different. You can use it for idea phases. Then you have the 5 whys. You keep asking why. So why do people do this? Then you have the answer. Then you say, why do people do this answer thing? Right. Then you keep asking why until you find to the 5th level. Then that's the problem you want to solve, maybe. Right. Then you can do like there's fishbone diagrams also, where all the different services can come in and so on, like a fishbone, and a user persona. So today I'll share about user personas and user journey maps. Right. I think this may be the most applicable and what you see outside in the industry as well. Okay. But once again, there's a lot of different diagrams out there. I'm just saying that analyze step is where the team can be very creative and do a lot of things together. So user personas, let's talk about it a bit. So what exactly is user persona? Basically, user persona is basically like you craft the imaginary individual that kind of represents your user that you want to serve, right? For example, you can say, oh, this person is John the engineer or John the software engineer. Okay, very specific. He's 23 years old, or maybe not so young. He's 27 years old, right? And he's working at like, let's say a startup in Singapore. And his hobbies are playing tennis. He likes to watch Netflix, so on. So the goal is to be very specific, right? You want to be as specific as possible because you want to find ways to infiltrate, okay, not say infiltrate, to integrate your product with the person's life, right? For example, Netflix, right? Netflix have integrated to a lot into people's lives already, right? Some people say, oh, I watch Netflix before I sleep, but I don't watch Netflix, I can't sleep, right? That is how Netflix has kind of integrated people's lives. And of course, the goal of all products is to be part and parcel of people's day-to-day lives, right? So you want to find out everything, you want to kind of imagine a user and try to be part of the person's life. Of course, you might be wondering, like, how do you go about imagining this person's life? Okay, so this one I'll share a bit more. But basically, one way is that you want to involve everyone in the team. So you don't want the case where, like, after you have decided on user persona, someone else on the team says, hey, I didn't join this process, the user persona process. I don't agree with this user persona. This is not our user. Right, then that's a GG already. You have to redo the process. But then you want to involve everyone in the team. And usually just 1 or 2 personas should be sufficient if the product is not a very big product. Right. So how it works is that you get everyone to sit down, your whole team to sit down together. So in this case, just 2 of you guys are. But let's say startup, it may be everyone in the startup. Right. You introduce everyone to the problem you want to try and solve. Ask them who will be interested in the product that can solve this problem. Then people try to come up with user persona. So user persona don't usually have a name, age, and a short background. So this can be done, like, for example, if you can ask everyone to come up with a persona of their own, then you stick it to a board so in UX, they like to use post-its a lot. Okay. So you'll see a lot of pictures about UI, UX designers like that. Just spam post-its one. Okay. So it's part and parcel. Because post-its is quite convenient. You can move ideas around and you can organize ideas. So you can write down a short persona on the post-it and stick it to a wall. Then what people will do is that they'll group these kind of ideas, the similar ideas and traits, right? And then circle them and then try to boil everything down to the essentials. Find the similarities across all these personas and then put them as part of your user persona, right? So how will a final user persona how will it look like? Here's an example, right? So for example, there's this example user persona here. That's built for this app that doesn't exist. It's a NUS map. This is a project for 3216. It's actually my team that came out with this persona. So you can see that there's a lot of different details. It's like this person is a 19-year-old freshman, right? Studying NUS. And then there's a description about this girl that what are some things that she likes to do, right? And may or may not be very relevant to the application, right? Once again, like I said, it may be you want to be part of the person's life. You can talk about their hobbies and dreams. You can talk about the pain points that they feel, right? It may not even be related to the exact problem, right? It may be like, for example, she's struggling with the expectations of her parents. I think this is a problem that some guys may be facing also, right? Or like losing touch with your friends from junior college. That's a real problem, right? Who's to say that your app may not one day go somehow help with that, right? You don't know. right? So we talk about the different kind of pain points. I think not very relevant now because now everything's online, but back then it was quite relevant, right? And then here's another example, right? So this is another team that's of the year after mine. So basically, let's say like there's this so this is not my team, so that's why I'm crediting them here. The team is called Basket. Okay. So they talk about this person called Samuel, right? Then they talk about his personality, which is great. Right. Talk about personality, their frustrations and the bio and goals. Right. Everyone has their own goals and so on. I think it's important to know what your user is like, and also can be part of their life, right? Really. So that's the point of UX user persona. Right. And once you have designed a user persona, what you like to do is generally print it out and paste it everywhere in the office, right? So that everyone, every time they want to make a decision, they look at the user persona and think, what would the user like? Or what should I do now, given that this is my user? Right. Then they can guide their decisions along the way. Okay. Let's talk about the user journey map now. Right. So now that you have defined the user persona, you can try to like define the certain scenario, right? So you want to set a scenario, and then you can try to map the user's journey through it, right? So there's a bit of difference if you have a product versus you don't have a product lah. So if you don't have a product, you may be mapping the person's interaction with the problem, right? This is the problem that they face. And then but if you have a product already, you might be mapping the user's interactions with the product as they go through the scenario. So you want to map out the motivations, touch points, interactions, basically all this kind of slightly more emotional side of the house, right? And once again, there's an example here. So this once again, Basket's design. Okay, this thing called Basket, right? So notice this is a Samuel done from earlier, right? Then this scenario is that he's trying to do more work. Okay, so actually it's best you write the scenario on top lah. Actually, then basically there's this the actions that this person perform along the way, and then this is the person's stress level. So up to you to decide what kind of emotional map you want to do. Some people may talk about like happiness graph, right? So this one is a stress level graph. So you can see at which point is he especially stressed, right? And then you can see that there's some points that you guys can resonate with, this is taking way too long, should it be this hard, right? When it comes to more work. And yes, I think this is a pain point, right? So by looking at this graph, you can clearly identify what are the areas that you want to target your application. This is clearly a place you want to look at. If it's a happiness graph, you can look at the places where sign drops suddenly, drastically, from very happy to very unhappy, right? So let's say let's use the airline example again. You have an airline, your commercials are working. People are going to the website after they look at the commercial, the advertisements and so on, but they're not buying the tickets. So something's wrong here. The user journey is that maybe there's some sort of like adventurous feeling at the beginning, but once you reach your website, they stop feeling adventurous and suddenly. So you might be wondering why. Why do people suddenly feel like, oh, I don't want to go for a trip anymore, right? So yes, by mapping out the journey, you can figure out these kind of areas and figure out what they're thinking, their pain points, and then target them accordingly. Okay. Yeah, and one last thing is that you can potentially express it as a problem statement. But note that this is a bit of a overlap with the next step because we are talking about the solution already. We can solution here. So example is this to overcome the difficulty of finding a CLB, right? Like a problem during exam periods, we can consolidate information across all blocks, right? So this is potentially a solution. So the annual students, right, your target audience, can perform their search in a single time to save time, a single place to save time. And notice that this sounds like a user story, right? Actually. So user story is also part of the, you can say like user story is kind of like a software engineering aspect of kind of like where UX and software engineering kind of come together, because software engineering is about solving problems as well, finding the right problem to solve, right? So naturally UX design and like doing user research and so on is part of the process, right? So yeah, so there is quite a bit overlap of UX and software engineering. So don't think that they are completely different things, right? So yeah, interestingly enough, it sounds like user story. And be careful of this thing called perceived versus real problems, right? So sometimes you may perceive a problem to be something, but actually the real problem underlying is something else that's that you're not looking at, you're not seeing. So for example, like the security team you feel like it's just understaffed and lackluster, but actually it's not really the problem here. The problem is that the manpower is not being allocated correctly, right? Seniors and juniors are not paid correctly, so the junior staff are like they are confused about what they're doing, right? The allocation doesn't meet the demands, right, and the requirements. You may need more people in some area, but like they're not being people required, and so on, right? So some people overwork and some people underwork, and etc. So the real problem may be a lot harder to solve, of course, but this is where you need to be very careful with your analysis and your research also, your understand and analyze phase to really find out what's the real problem. Right? You don't want to spend your time solving the perceived problem, then no one use the product also, because once again, it's not a problem, right? It's not the real problem. They'll solve the problem. Okay. At this point, any questions? So if I talk very fast, I like to talk very fast. Sorry. Let me know if I need to slow down and repeat myself at certain points. I promise that. Okay, so at this stage you have a hands-on, a short hands-on, mini hands-on at this point. So it'll be more fun. I'm really hoping to make it more interactive for everyone also. So far it's like a lecture. I'm so sorry, but after this we'll have a short hands-on, then a big hands-on at the end. Okay, so we have 2 hands-on this session. Okay, so no questions. I'll continue. Okay, so after you have figured out the problem, right? Naturally you want to find the solution. Okay. Yeah. So this is where we can come in. So the question we want to solve here is the answer here is how can we solve the problem that we've identified? Notice that the first 2 questions were what questions, right? But now this is a how question. So from here on, it's about problem solving already. And actually from the next two phases as well, it's also about how questions. Okay, so the first 2 questions are about what. You are trying to find out the problem, right? Then now it's about how. How do you solve this problem? So how can we solve this problem that you identified? So generally, what can you do to do this is you can kind of like break it down the 2 steps. So first you figure out what kind of functionality your product needs to support, right? So if you have an existing product already, maybe this is an additional functionality you want to support. Or if let's say it's a brand new product, this will be a very first functionality. Then secondly, you want to figure out what features you want to have in the product to support the functionality. So what's the difference between these 2? What's the difference between functionality and feature? So let's give an example. Let's say Grab. Maybe a functionality a Grab can support would be allow users to book car rides, right? So this is quite a general functionality, right? But what are the features that you need to support it? Right. First, you need a way for users to kind of key in a way to see the map, right? See where they are. A way for them to select their destination. A way to select their starting point, right? Some way to see where the current driver is at, right? And see how long the driver will take. All these are fun. All these features. Some features may not actually can also be about like the wow factor. So it may not necessarily be about directly solving a problem. It may be a wow factor, right? It may be about being able to give a review after your ride is over and so on. Then actually, this is not all the features you need. You need a feature to allow drivers to be able to register on the app and tell people like, I'm here to, you can book. I'm here to drive you, right? I'm waiting for someone to book me, right? You need a way for drivers to find out where they should go to pick up the customer and where they should drop off the passenger, right? And a way for the driver to navigate from the start to the destination. So these are all features, right? But the overall functionality is to allow users to book a cab. They can book a ride that allows them to go from one place to another, right? So functionality is a bit more broad, but features are the actual things that you want to build. Potentially are things that you want to build. So those who have continue to read out about 103 stuff already, you may know about a feature list and so on, right? So this is a feature. This is where we talk about features, right? And it's quite similar. The definition is the same. And actually, in UX, there's something called the UX feature list, right? Yeah. So once you have the functionality, you can design some of the features, right? So there's a few ways to do this, but generally what happens is that people will all come down together to brainstorm features, right? They write it down on post-its. One feature per post-it, so you don't go and cram all the features in a single post-it. And you want to be creative. Okay, so in brainstorming sessions, there are no bad ideas. Of course, there's some ideas that are absolutely like irrelevant. Okay, that is normal, but don't hesitate to write it down first. Okay, so all ideas are welcome. Yeah, let's separate out the core features that after you have all these features, you naturally need a way to filter and categorize them so that you can have a discussion. Right. So you separate. So firstly, you want to separate out core features that the product cannot do without. So let's say it's an online course website, right? Then naturally you might need videos, right? Video seems like a core feature. I think without videos is very hard to do online course, right? I mean, it's not impossible, but generally is if your company is focused on doing that, I think this is a core feature. But then the other features that may be not as core, maybe stuff like captions. Right? Caption may not be a core feature, but it's definitely a feature use that may be worth building. Like maybe a way to like timeline, right? I can jump to different parts of the video easily through some sort of sidebar. Maybe that's also another feature they can build. Right? Like YouTube nowadays have the different segments of the video, right? Can straight tell what's this segment about and what's the next segment about and so on. Can easily jump through them. Right. So those are all features that may not be technically core. Without it, it's like you can think about this. Core features are features that if you don't have this feature, your app cannot work. Okay, then that's a core feature already. Right. Then you basically you kind of overlap features that are similar. So because it's posted, you can based on them based on each other. And filter out any features that are really weird, that are very, very random one. Okay, so random doesn't equals to like wow factor. Sometimes if it's really too random, you can filter them out. and try cut this down to a reasonable 10 to 20 lah, 10 to 20 features, right? And then after that, you might want to decide on the features they want to do. So there are a few ways to do this kind of filtering process, right? One way is what they call the pairwise comparison, right? Basically, you take two features, compare them, and if you keep the one that's strong, that's like better, right? So for example, you want to compare them according to like certain factors like relevance. Is it very relevant for our product? How long does it take to implement this feature? How much does it cost to implement this feature? I think for you guys, maybe it's about time lah. But let's say you want to use an API like some sort of paid API. You might want to think like, oh, is it worth paying the money to use the API for my app? Right. So there's cost also. And one thing you might want to think about is also the wow factor, right? Like, wow, is it worth, like when people see this, really like, wow, this app is crazy. It's so good. It's so interesting, so unique. I've never seen anything like this before. Right. And then do this with your user personas at hand so that you evaluate how your ideal user will like it. So the goal is to filter out the lower priority features. So I think wow factor example would be like WeChat. Okay, I've heard from my friend recently that the WeChat has this thing that if one person send the poop emoji, then the other person send a bomb emoji, then the bomb will fly across the screen and the poop will explode. I don't know. I've seen a screen capture of it working. It's crazy. I don't know how long it took for the developers to build that. It looks amazing. But it's a wow factor. It's like what the heck? You wouldn't even find it unless you somehow send those emojis in this order. But it's there, right? It's a wow factor thing. Yeah. So whether it's worth the time, that's a question for another day. But like there's certainly a wow factor. Then there's this method also called the monopoly method, right? Basically, give everyone some monopoly money, and ask them to pay for the features they want, right? So you run through the features one by one, then you choose how much money they want to spend on each. So the money basically represents the limited amount of time and resources you have, right? You don't want to spend it on features that don't matter. So by spending your money on things that matters, that you feel like it's more important, you can figure out which is the one that's like more important, right? And everyone thinks is good. And the important thing is that you want to place the money down at the same time, because there's this thing called the boss bias. Let's say your boss is in the room and he's sitting there and say, wow, feature A looks like the best feature possible. Okay, I'm going to put all my money onto it. Do you think anyone will say they want feature B instead? Definitely not, right? Because the boss will say it like that. Then no choice. I mean, if you want a promotion or you want the whatever, you got to agree with the boss, right? So that's the thing. So that's why you want to place down money at the same time, and then don't say in advance what you think is a good feature. Okay. So to make sure that there's no boss bias. Of course, the boss must also be aware. The boss also cannot be saying this kind of stuff, right? So this is the kind of thing to make sure that it's fair. That what people think is the best feature is the best feature. Everyone agrees with. Okay. So let's have an online session. Okay. Can I have everyone please don't do anything? I would like to please beg everyone that please don't do anything yet when you first reach the website. But we're going to use this application called Miro to do some brainstorming. Okay, you can copy the link I just sent on the chat. Yep. And we will try to do some ideation ourselves, right? So let me just stop sharing for a while. And let me just jump over to my Miro. Oh, I see a lot of people joining in already. Let me just share my screen, give me a scan. Yeah, please don't do anything yet, please. And don't, okay. So let us do some brainstorming feature together. So let's say we want to build the idea that I talked about earlier, NUS maps. Okay, so the functionality that we want to support is this. We want the application that can allow students to navigate through NUS easily and find places, let's say the classrooms, exit classrooms and locations and so on easily throughout NUS. What are some features that we want to build? So let's get started. So can you see my thing? So if you don't have enough post-its, you can just press this part here and then select a post-it. So let's spend 5 minutes. We do some brainstorming. Can everyone just take a post-it of their own, get it to some location, and try to write down the feature that they think is useful. There will be confirmed base conditions. Okay, there will be base conditions, unfortunately. So let's try our best to make this work. Wow, this is crazy. If also try to come up with at least one feature, I think one feature may be good enough, because there's like 80 of you guys here. 80 features is not easy to filter. Okay, but think about features that you think may be important. So this one can be core features, can be miscellaneous features, can be wow factor features. Okay, be creative. So core feature maybe is like the map, right? Definitely about the map. You can't build the app, right? So let's try to think of some idea. Personally, I'll write a map. Okay. Feel free to, like I mentioned, you go to the left-hand bar here. You can see a sticky note. I hope you guys can see my screen. Sticky note. Then select any color you like, and drag it out and use that. Okay. Try not to go and override people's ideas. Please don't go and delete other people's stuff. Okay. I see someone wrote mutex. Wow. I wonder who that is. Okay, awesome. I see very interesting ideas. Voice assistant for blind. Okay, so sorry, no expressing of opinions here. Later on, we'll do a vote together to see. We'll do a voting. So this is an example of an app that you might want to use with your team members. Right. This idea called this app called Miro is an industry standard tool nowadays for whiteboarding and brainstorming. Prototyping also, not only prototyping, sorry, more for whiteboarding and brainstorming. So what's whiteboarding is basically like discussion of ideas collaboratively online. So yeah, try to think of any creative ideas that you guys might have. And feel free to add more. We'll try to cut this off at 10:53. Then we'll spend 1-2 minutes to categorize and filter a bit. Then we'll do a vote. Okay. Yeah, so if not for Korea, this will be done physically, where you actually have like post-its and like markers to write down the post-it, then go out to the board and paste. It's quite fun. Okay, it sounds like it's a lot of work. Like why go through all these like rituals? It's so mafan, right? Some of you guys might so troublesome, right? But it's actually quite fun when you participate. It's actually legit quite fun. So brainstorming is always a fun session. And I'm just trying to simulate the experience here. Hopefully it helps. And yeah, I see someone drawing stuff. Please don't draw random stuff, please. Thanks. I know that Miro has a lot of tools and it's quite powerful. But try to keep it simple. Let me know if you cannot log into the website. I don't know if there's a user limit for Miro. I've never tried using with like 80 people. There's like 60 people now, I think, on the chat. I mean on the Miro board. Wireframing, okay, so wireframing, someone asked about, can you use this app for wireframing? I think can. But I don't think it's the best app to use for wireframing. I'll share more about other tools you can use later on. So one of them is Adobe XD. The other one that I'll share about next week is Figma. Right. Oh, someone wrote hi. Hello. So I repeat, the function they want to support is that we want to support traveling from one place to another in NUS, and hopefully at the classroom level, ideally. Okay, can everyone please stop adding stuff? I know it's because are anonymous and everything, but please help to collaborate a bit. And let us try to categorize stuff together. Okay, so let us try to merge stuff, delete stuff that's not very relevant, and then merge stuff that's similar. Please try to wrap up now. Like you guys 10 to 15 seconds more to wrap up your ideas. Once you guys have it, can you guys please, the next step you guys can interact with is the voting phase. Okay. So let's try to categorize the features together a bit. Okay, 10 more seconds. Try to wrap up. Okay, come. Can we stop adding for a while? And then I'll do the cleanup. So for now, everyone just can watch for a while for now. This part. Okay, so let's clean up those that's empty first. I'm sorry if I delete your stuff and it's like actually not empty or something. Or you're writing something right now. But we're out of time now. So let's just delete all those that's empty. Then let's try to categorize some stuff. So level of coordinates, I think there's some sort of similarity there. That's quite similar. So like check number of people at full places. I think I see someone about like, okay, so directions to place on the goal, not planning. So there's two of them is quite similar. Right, booking to get the location is quite, wow, that's an interesting feature. Will there be effort that project this is asking the 1%? I'm deleting this, sorry. I'm going to delete. I'm so sorry. Because later the voting, I want to avoid people voting on like random post-its that are not relevant. There's another empty one here, delete. Please don't delete. Please don't delete for now. The rest of y'all can just watch for now. Current location, definitely. Right. So that is a feature, yes. Okay, so simple things like current location. That is a feature in itself. The smiley face, I'm sorry. Fail location, okay, interesting. So some sort of fail location here. So where other people are is interesting as well. Live directions from the camera feed. Okay, that is a very interesting feature. Chance of meeting most people on happen. I don't know. What's this? Sorry. If you want to clarify, I can unmute and just let me know. Timing and ETA, okay, sure. Similar, I think. Traffic may be part of the route planning. Right, but okay, slightly different. Animation that shows current path. Okay, so this is a bit of an extra feature. So okay, so this one generally you want to store together with people. But for now, I think I'll just guide the process along. Turn off Bluetooth for user to find his or current location. So something about current location. Right. GPS, current location. Voice assistant for blind people, interesting. SSSP, okay, I guess this is part of the route planning, right? And this is interesting, the transparent one. And then this one is delete map. Yes, map is a feature that I think I'm the cheapest way to get from one destination. So route planning also. Linking social media, share the location. Where do you learn all these? Can learn from online courses, from trying out. If you want, you can take this module 3216. You learn through the hard, through the hard way, because if you don't learn, you can't do well. So that's that. You can try 3216 if you're interested. Share location. Share location is a bit like kind of idea that thinking social media. Combine NUS next bus. Sure. That's a good idea. Wow, it's a bit messy right now. Normally physically it's a bit just stack. Most fun route on top of fastest. Okay, so that's interesting idea. That's not really the same as the rest. Estimation of time needed to travel from one place to another. So timing. So this one is something timing. Recommendations on nice food around the area. That's interesting. Auto locate or user on map. Definitely. So let's put that as a current location, right? Amenities, options to reach location, including booking of transport. I'll put together the right booking. Okay, so yeah, if you haven't written anything, I'm going to delete it at this point. Wow, these are frozen. I can't delete it. Okay. Alternative routes. Okay. I'll put them together as route planning. I feel like there's some similarity across. Information about the place. That's interesting. Maybe I'll put it together as level of coordinates as well, like general information. Directions to destination is route planning, or rather, yeah, I'll put it together route planning as well. Check for fees to study at, right? So that's coordinates. Payment. Payment a bit too broad. I think I'm gonna delete it. I'm so sorry. But I can understand where there might be a context where this is useful. Can we use this thing for wireframing? Yes. But there's a better idea. Okay, so let's delete duplicates. Traffic, I feel like I want to put them together as timing estimation, right? Because naturally traffic will be related. Amenities I want to clump together with this recommendation nice food around the area. Basically amenities around the area. NUS next pass, okay. And so on. Share location. Okay, chance of meeting most people, I guess by chance. Potentially is most fun route. I think these are both interesting ideas. Yeah, sure to success a bit broad. So I'm gonna delete this. A bit random. F with location. Okay, interesting. So where other people are. Let's see where you can find that live directions. Camera feed. Okay. So where people are, is then another one similar one. Okay, so let us please stop adding, guys. I know you guys have a lot of ideas. I know you guys are brilliant people, definitely have a lot of ideas. But we want to keep it short. I want to move on to the Adobe XD hands-on as much as possible. Yeah, so let's delete some ideas that are, if without this, our app won't work. Okay. So it's not that a feature is bad, it's that your feature has already been, it's kind of like if I don't have this feature, I can't really make it work. My app won't really work. Right, so firstly, map is definitely one. Okay, I don't feel sorry for deleting it because I wrote there myself. I feel like current location, okay, so I just gonna write down map. Current location, I feel like is also a bit of a game breaker for app. Right, without a current location, you can't really do this navigation thing properly. I don't know about you guys, but this is what I feel. So I'm going to delete this as well. All these things. So once again, I add it to the chat, current location. But it's an absolutely good idea. And you should, normally what you do is move it to another pile. Okay, but today, because you're going to vote, I have no choice but to delete. Okay. Okay, then destinations. Direction to destination. Definitely need this, right? Game breaker. But I don't have direction. How this navigation app, right? So I'm deleting this. So direction, I'm going to write it to chat as well. Direction to destination. Animation that shows path. Okay, fair enough. I feel like this is a bit different from the share location. So I'm going to separate it out again. Okay, so now let me just deduplicate them. But Magic may be quite interesting. These two may be very similar. Okay. So let me deduplicate. So I'll delete those that are duplicates and I'll keep one that I feel like is the most appropriate. So you can think of this as a top posted on the stack. So maybe let's say I delete the number of people, the coordinates and so on. I keep information about the place. Availability. Field location is one also. Live direction of camera feed. Show where other people are. I'll keep this one, social media. What's the system for blind people? Where booking? I think I'll delete this one and keep this one. I'll keep the more broad one. Payment wallet, digital wallet payment. Sure. A bit broad. Okay. I feel like this is not really part of the functionality, but I can keep it. Doesn't really, I think doesn't really answer the functionality. But like, let's keep it for now. Share location. Okay, so this one is overlap with this one. I feel. Oh, shucks. Estimation. Okay, keep it simple. ETA to destination. This one I'll delete. Animation that shows current path to the destination. I think the key thing is animation. So I think the key feature is the animations rather than the from most fun route, combine X bus, amenities. And is there anything else that I missed out? It's empty one here. Please don't edit. Please don't edit. Sorry guys. I know you guys are very excited. Okay, so now we move on to the next step. So these are the ideas that we have. How many? We have 13, right? Interesting ideas that we may or may not have the time or effort to build it. So now I'll start a voting session. Everyone will have 3 votes. You have 30 seconds to vote. You have 3 votes per person, right? You can choose the idea that you think is the most interesting. Okay, so feature voting, let's call it. Okay, and we can start now. Can you guys vote? Are you guys able to vote? Please let me know if you cannot vote. I tested this myself last night. It should work. Okay, great, awesome. It should work. Because I'm not sure if anonymous voting works. Okay, I also need to vote as well. So so this is a bit of a boss bias thing, but don't let my votes affect you. Yeah. I think field location is a good feature. Show where people are. Social media is interesting, I think. It did this. Oh shucks, this is okay lah. I guess this is a must have. Oh, I put 30 minutes. Okay. Oh shucks, I put 30 minutes. Okay, I think I'll give you guys like 20 seconds more to cut you off. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. I think someone sent message in the chat. But thanks Ben. Yeah, 10 seconds more, then I'll turn off the voting. And you can take a look at what the results are. Okay, let's end voting. And let's see the results. Oh wow, can see the results already. Okay, don't know why it's like, okay. Why is this like a paragraph texting? Okay, so number 1 is ETA to destination. So whoever came out of this, awesome. This is definitely a key feature that seems like everyone agrees that it should be built. Oh wow, how come there's like a 19 now suddenly here? It's not on the list. Is there like a 19 above this? Okay, this app is a bit buggy. Let's click out and click in again. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so ETA destination is 21. I think some guys were like voting still, then maybe like the post scheme a bit late. Then information on the place seems like it's a very popular feature also. So 19. Field location, right, 16. Options reach location, command annual next bus. So interesting thing, right? Some of you guys may not have considered these features by yourself. You may not have thought about these features. Or like if you guys didn't do this whole process, you may not even think about like adding a feature about NUS Next Pass. Or may not even think about like field location. This not something that cross your mind. So then what you want to do is you do want to kind of like a brainstorm session to just churn ideas, churn out all the ideas you can think of, and then vote. And really by popular demand, naturally the results will come out. Right? This is the best way to understand your users. Right? Potentially you can involve users in this process as well. But because generally some discussions may be a bit more private to company, so generally or your team, so you may not want to involve outsiders, right? Especially the stuff like regarding like how long it might take to implement stuff, how much it might cost. I think this kind of thing a bit more private. So generally people don't involve public members. But I mean for your app, I think that's not a big privacy issue for you. So you can go ahead and involve real users to do this kind of things with you as well. Okay, awesome. Thanks everyone. Now we'll get back to your slides already. And hope everyone had fun for this hands-on. I'll keep the session running. Like I mean the Mivo will be there. If you want to play around with it, you can go ahead and play around with it. But I will not be using it anymore. Okay. Okay, everyone can see my slides. So I hope everyone had fun. Unfortunately, it'll be a lot more fun if you can do this physically. Because like really thanks so much to everyone for being so collaborative and cooperative. I'm so worried that like because anonymous, some people may add stuff and so on. There's also no way for me to track. So I don't know. But this really went very well. It's beyond my expectations. So thanks everyone. Okay, I'm not trying to say I don't trust y'all. It's just that sometimes there's more hazard. Okay. Yeah. So after you have ideated, right, you come out like you have come a list of features and so on. You might be wondering, okay, so what to do with these features? Okay, so that is where you want to prototype. Right? You want to bring these solutions and features to life, make them come to life. So the question is, okay, of course, naturally, how should we bring the solution features to life? So once again, it's a how question, right? So what you can do is you want to come up with design that can accommodate all these features. So let's say just now we voted, right? We say, okay, maybe we want to do the top 5 features out of this whole list of ranking of features, right? You want to do top 5. Then maybe you want to do some designs, right? There are many ways to do designs. And generally there are 3 levels of fidelity when it comes to designs. Some people may not call it exactly these terms, but from what I know, most people call it these terms. This is the industry standard. So wireframes, mockups, and prototypes. Okay, so there's difference between these 3. And then let's take a look at each of them and figure out what's the difference. Okay. So let's talk about wireframes first. So I think some guys may have done wireframing already. I know my teams, 2 or 3 of them have done wireframes. I love it. Okay. I love that you guys are doing wireframes. Okay. The wireframes is important. Okay. If you don't know what you want to build, it's very hard to build. It's really very hard to build. So wireframes technically can be sufficient to some extent. Okay. Generally, mockups may be harder because mockups may need more technical expertise and a bit of artistic ability. But wireframes definitely can be done by anyone, even without like artistic ability. Okay. That's FYI. So the goal of the wireframe is to figure out what should be where. Okay, so it's about placement. You should not have details like colors or fonts. Okay, these kind of small details. The worst thing to have is have a discussion about wireframe and then devolves to something like someone says, hey, I don't like the color there, or I don't like the font here. Okay, the moment it devolves to that stage, it's over. Okay, that's not what wireframe is for. Wireframe is for discussion of, hey, I don't think that button should be there. I don't think that the button to go to the next page should be there. Maybe should be at the top. Maybe it should be at the bottom. Maybe you should add something there, like a disclaimer. Or maybe there should be a body of text there to say something. Maybe you should link them to your rules and regulations there at this point, terms and conditions at this point, and so on. You shouldn't be talking about like what color is the thing and so on. That's for mockups. It's not at this stage. The reason why is because things like colors and fonts are very distracting at the start, and it's not important. Right? You can always change the colors and fonts, but the placement of things is very important. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to try to slot the features in from the feature list. And generally, what we'll recommend is you can do up to 5 different versions of your wireframes of the same interface. And normally around the third or second or third one, you have or maybe the 4th one, you already have a rough ideal composition already. And the rest is just like trying out different possibilities. Okay, normally it's like second one, you have some idea that, oh, this is actually quite a good screen. That's probably what I'm going to do. But I'm just going to do a few more to see like what if I swap things around a bit. Maybe there's an interesting flow that I never thought of. Right. So some apps that are quite famous are Balsamic. I think one of my teams use that. Right. My team Appetite. And Mockingbird. Okay, it's also but I think some of them may be paid. So must be careful. I don't recommend paying for it because wireframes can be done on pen and paper. Honestly, just take a pencil and draw. Okay. So once again, some guiding questions for wireframes are like, so what's the goal of the screen? What's the user supposed to do at this screen? what should the user expect to see, how should the content be organized, where should your primary message and logo go, and where will your call to action be. Call to action is what you want the user to do. Like maybe it's press a button to sign up, register. When you want the user to go to this page to play a game or something, right? So here are some examples. So once again, this one is for the NUS maps that we had just done brainstorming sessions for. So this is the one that this wireframe that we came up with. Notice that this is just a random sketch, right? It's very ugly, it's very messy, but it serves a purpose. It tells people like what is where, right? It tells them to start here. Okay, so this is the 0 screen. So as developers, we index the 0. Okay, then you jump, you can go to this screen and so on. Then you can kind of see like, it kind of looks like Google Maps. Sure, we kind of copied it a bit. But yeah, but this is roughly, from this can then imagine what the interface may look like already. Right, it's enough for discussion. And I think when I proposed this to my team, yeah, there are a lot of feedback. They say, oh, I recall as well a few of these screens here. They ask like, what can we move this thing instead? And so on. Or they say, I don't really agree with the placement of this thing. Like maybe want to shift this to another place and so on. So the point is to have this kind of discussions. Right, this is another mock-up wireframe that's used for this COVID-19 fraud contact tracing app that Singapore is using now actually at the hospitals. And okay, I cannot give much information, but this is a rough one. So once again, there's not much concern about color. Maybe at most a bit of like shading here and there. And the concern is more about the placement of stuff. And disclaimer, this is all fake data, so it's okay. Yeah. So it's about the discussion of the where to put up. And then there's mockups, right? So mockups, so now that you know 5 wireframes, what are mockups? Mockups basically static design, so static. I want to emphasize static, but higher fidelity, right? So this is where you discuss the colors, fonts, right? Beautifying it. How can I make it such that it's like the design is like according to our company color theme, right? And so on. And note that there is actually no need to do a mockup immediately after doing a wireframe. You can actually move on to the next stage, validate first, then come back to mockups. Right? You can always validate your wireframe with a user, then before you move on to the mockups. Because let's say you spend a lot of effort doing a mockup, and then your wireframe also, the user complains about the position of stuff. Right? Turns out the problem was about the placement of items. Then actually you're wasting your time to do a mockup. So sometimes for doing mockups include Figma, Adobe XD. I think these two are the more famous ones. There are some other like what's the one called? The one with the jewel as the design logo one. I can't remember the name. It's like on a Mac one. Did someone send the name? Sketch. Yes, Sketch is a famous one, but I think it's only on Mac OS. So may or may not be up everyone's cup of tea, and it's paid. But Figma and Adobe XD are free. So generally, I always recommend Figma and Adobe XD. Right. Okay, so what my mockup looks like. So some mockups may look like this. So like basically you want to talk about colors, fonts, and generally this after you have decided on the placement already, right? Or something like this, like right? Basically it's fake. There's you can't interact with this. It's just like a design. But people can discuss this way. Can discuss stuff like, oh, should there be shadow here? The font seems a bit too round. Maybe want to use a font that looks a bit more offshore, and so on. You can always talk about these kind of ideas, right? Or should this thing be this color, right? It should be blue. Yeah, then this is also another one, right? Just some sample markups for different mods that I've taken as well. Did someone send some message? So yeah, wait, let me check the chat. Yeah, you can see what Chris mentioned. So Sketch used to be the thing, but nowadays it's kind of fallen out of popularity already. I think it's still being used in a lot of companies because many companies will pay for these kind of things. But when it comes to students, Figma is normally the go-to. Adobe XD is slightly less because it's not as collaborative. Some students, when they work on team projects, they want to collaborate, right? That's more important than like how powerful the features are. I personally feel like Adobe XD is more powerful, but Figma is definitely more collaborative. So that's for sure. Because Adobe XD, of course, it's definitely not as collaborative. But there's still some features for sharing. So rest assured. So prototypes are okay. So now they know mockups and wireframes. So I'm wondering what's prototypes, right? Prototypes are actually basically like even higher fidelity. So fidelity is like basically like how well done and finished it is, and detail is. So and this now it's interactive, right? So actually users can kind of interact with the design, and you actually move and animate and so on. So the goal is some of them, right? I've seen this person at Facebook before, like 2 years back. In like 30 minutes, he kind of did a prototype. If you tell me a team of developers built it for 2 months, I'll believe it. No, it was so well done. It's insane. It was like legit mad. I don't know how the heck he did it, but the guy is like working at the US or something now. He's like a and he's like 20 something, like 23, 24, like that. So it's crazy. I guess like 26 now, but like was insane. So some of them really look and behave like a real app, right? There's basically no difference. And right, so basically it's to facilitate discussion on how things should move, transition, animate, and so on. So maybe should the screen slide to the left, or should it like pop up? Should when hover the button, should like some shadow appear? Should it like tilt? I think you guys have seen the Team Labs website. I think one of the teams emailed me yesterday about this. You know about the harsh dialogue guy, right? Who was recently busted. He has this Team Labs website, which is pretty impressive. Then if you notice the cards, right, hover, you kind of like it tilts and then like it fills in the color and so on. It's great. There's user interaction, and you can do that in a prototype, right? So you can use the same apps for wireframes. Sorry, not wireframes, mockups. Typo here, mockups for prototypes. So Figma and Adobe XD are options here. So here's an example of a prototype, right? So here you can see that it's actually interactive. You can actually click around, and this is the NUS maps, basically, right? Because you click around, interact with the application, and things happen, right? And so on. Yeah, I don't think I'll show too much, but like, yeah, okay, there it goes. So yeah, so that's really an example of a prototype. So then the next question is like, how do I then make sure that my design works, right? So this is where your validation will occur. So you need to validate your designs with actual users, okay? So the question is, how will an actual user interact with our designs? So once again, it's a how question, right? So this is where you want to do user testing. So there's a few instructions. So generally, what you want to do is you want to give the users a list of tasks to do your designer, and then don't tell them anything else. Right? If you share too much information, or you use terms, right, it may end up becoming a test becoming inaccurate or too easy, right? So example of a task may be like add a product to your cart and do a checkout. Simple as that, right? You don't tell them, or go to the product page, find the product, click the add to cart button, and go to a checkout page and press the checkout button. That's too specific. Don't want to be too specific. And you don't want to share too much information, because a lot of times when you share information, like, it becomes like a sales pitch. You tell them, oh, my product does this, it does this. After all, they say, okay. Then when they do the thing, right, they have certain biases already. There's certain different perceptions that may change how they interact with that product. Right. So then it's not accurate anymore, because the real user won't have this sales pitch that speaks to them before they use it. Right. Then your job is to stand there, or like if it's online, and observe, right, watch through the screen. Observe the user's attitude and behavior. You need to look out for the non-verbal cues. Right? Did they get stuck at any point? Right? Did they hesitate at some point? And like, should I press this button or press this button? Right? Both looks like maybe buttons I want. Right? These are the things you want to look out for. And when you note down these points, right, one way is to write one point on the post-it and then just keep taking off and keep collecting post-its. After all, you can stack these post-its again. Right? To Nicholas' question, yes, it's not necessarily coded out. I think you can definitely build out a prototype as well, but actually you can do all this without coding or anything, and we'll learn that in the hands-on later on. We'll learn how to do interactive prototype. Okay, so some guys will be like, what the heck? How do I do interactive prototype? Right? Like, this sounds so complex. It's not. Okay, we'll learn how to do one together later, and I'm looking forward to it as well. Okay. Yeah, so after a while, you can do this with many people, and then like after you can group the post-its. Right? I was saying that you can write down this kind of stuff on post-its, and they can use to refine both the design and your persona. Right. So once again, the user persona is not a static thing. Right. It's not like a user will never change. Target user may change. Right. Your user may also be different as they go. Right. Then at the end, you ask them for feedback. So make sure to do one user at a time. So you don't have a group session, because once some users say I'm done, right, the other users like, oh my god, like, am I dumb or am I slow? Then they start stressed out. Then whatever they do is no longer accurate. Right? You get in a very inaccurate signals. They look very stressed, right? But actually, it's not because they are stressed out from the app. It's stressed out from the people around them. So don't do them group. Do one by one, right? And you want to see the actual usage, basically, even if they're slow. And please let the user know that you are observing and taking notes. You don't tell them that after they say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you recording down stuff? Right. Of course, they will expect it, but it's good to let them know first. And don't try to convince the user to like it at the end. Right. If they tell you that, hey, this app sucks. No, I really hate this app. Like, I don't think I'll ever use it. Don't say, oh, hey, what the heck? What's wrong with you? Like, hey, you don't ask them like, why do you think this way? Like, what's the problem? And try to sell your product. Right. You want to just take the feedback and quickly go and redo the design. Okay. So you might be wondering, like, how do I find users to test my app? One way actually true, you can actually hire UX testers. So, but this one is to pay money sometimes. There's a website called Fiverr. I think some guys may know Fiverr. I can hire people to do random stuff. if you can hire people to do UX testing also. So actually, there are people out there who say like, oh, hire me to be a UX tester. There's legit quite a lot of posts out there. You can just hire easily. Normally it's like $1, $2, maybe $3, $4, maybe $5. And if you want like that professional feedback from like a person who's experienced in UX design, you may pay like $10 to $15 to someone with the industry knowledge. I don't know. Like, personally, I never really tried hiring a firefighter. I used to do my test physically before the COVID thing kind of happened. Yeah, so how many users you might wonder like. So actually 5 users normally is more than enough already. Because actually 90% of the problems that you can find, normally five users who you have surfaced out already. And generally the big problems are quite common. Like all the users will have will show the same kind of signs and signals. So don't be too worried. 9% is can be found. So don't go and do too much. It's what's it called? Decreasing wow, I forgot all econ stuff already. But it's the marginal returns, right? It's basically not worth. Yeah, quiz point is very important as well. Don't ask leading questions as well. Right. It's a bit tricky. Sometimes you might consult your friends to check if it's considered a leading question or not. Because from a perspective of an app builder, you may not be able to tell whether sometimes you can really tell it's leading or not. But you can always check with your friends and so on. Okay, so there are other ways to validate as well. So you can do what I call ethnographic testing. So for example, if you're doing an app that helps people run, then naturally you can't really ask them to sit there and use the app. I mean you can, but you might not be accurate or very useful data. So you might want to ask them hey, go and run, take my app and go and run. And I'll see how you use it, how you use the design when you're running. I'll just take my design. So not really app, but take my design and go and run. Right. You can do mouse heat maps, right? Code out. I think coding is a bit tricky. But you can use services like ClickTail to kind of track where people are moving their cursor. You can also consult other UX experts. I think you can hire people on Fiverr to kind of give you feedback. Once again, Fiverr seems it's quite an interesting platform. There's like people out there they can free do a lot of stuff for you. And then there are stuff that are lifestyle based. You can use diary testing. So diary testing is basically ask them to kind of jot down their thoughts and feelings about your app or your design as they try to use the app throughout the day. So this is more for apps that are kind of done like the whole day usage kind of thing. Like maybe it's about related to eating or related to exercising. You might want to have a diary testing. And actually one more type of testing that's not on the screen is A/B testing, right? Those who have gone for the React workshop for the Chris taught, like he talked about it before. Basically, you can do 2 different designs. You ask them to test one design versus the other and see what's the differences in the users' responses, their reaction, and feedback. Then you can say, okay, maybe you should go for design B instead of design A. Or you can show like the current design versus the new design and see which one performs better to see if like your new design actually is better, right? Sometimes you come up with a new design, but it's actually worse. People don't like it. Then you want to find out whether it's true or not. So this is an example of a mouse heat map, right? You can see that, oh, people like to hover around this area or like to hover around here. And some people like to hover here or maybe here to go back to the home screen. And from this you can see, oh, is it intuitive? Is that like a button that no one likes to click? Like my button is here, but like no one ever hovers on there. Then there's something wrong, right? Then the question is, what's the button doing? And is it supposed to be there? And is it actually serving its purpose, right? And so on. So this heat map. Let's watch a short video of user testing, right? Oh no, can you guys hear my sound? Let me share again with sound. I hope I can share the sound. Okay, I can't share the sound. Oh my god. Because I think somehow my com uninstalled the Zoom driver, Zoom audio driver. I used to be able to share. Suddenly cannot share anymore, and I don't want to restart my Zoom right now. Okay, so I just quickly go through and so this person asked his kid, it's a daughter, how do you feel about this design? They asked what's good about it. I like the worm. What do you think I can do from here? She said I can do coloring pages and click and watch the video. So she realized, yeah, so actually it's quite cute. Unfortunately, you can't hear the kid and the father. So it's a bit of a pity because actually it's quite a cute video. You can watch this video separately on your own. Okay, I can't seem to click through. But yeah, basically he kind of like shows different screens. So basically use a combination of sketches and computer printouts. And then he asked the kid like, oh, what if you want to color it orange? What if you want to color it green? What would you do? Then she would say, oh, I'll click this, I'll tap this, and we can watch it off. Like he asked, is this what you expected? Then she said yes. Right. So this is what she expected when she clicked coloring. Actually, oh, do this, do that. Yeah. So okay, so basically I'm saying that even with wireframes, you can do testing. So the only will be high fidelity mockup, like a pure complete mockup before you can jump into the testing phase. Okay. After okay, so I'm going to the end of the UX phase already before we move on to the hands-on. So actually what's next? What's afterwards is building it, right? After you have finished validating your product and your idea, you want to build it, right? Yeah. And yeah, this is the part that you guys are probably most proficient in building it. Okay, so the question is then then it's not over. So this UX design cycle is a cycle of revision. You cycle back to the very first one, understand what does my experience need to accomplish next? Okay. And then this whole thing repeats. So just when you think you're done, it's always a repeating cycle. This is what's been happening in the industry as well, is that there's always cycles. Of course, sometimes your goals, your objectives will change, right? Maybe at the start, your objective is to push out an app that is sufficient for people to use and get some data first. Then later on is making it beautiful, making it very intuitive and so on. And yeah, so that's so the objectives also matter. So objectives will come from the understand and analyze phase. Yeah, so this part is what I call iterate. Yeah, thanks Chris for sharing the link. Don't watch now. I don't watch now. Please watch after the thing. I'll share the slides. You can see the video link at the bottom. And okay, open the link first and then you don't watch it for now. Because actually next part we have is our hands-on to Adobe XD. Okay. I'll quickly introduce what we're going to do. Then we'll take like a short, maybe 3-minute break. I don't want to make everyone stay here and like, you need to get a sip of water, so on, and go for it. But let me quickly introduce what we're going to do. So the problem statement is this. Our favorite U-Town cat, actually, right, he's feeling a bit troubled. He wants some friends, right? Now that his COVID-19 situation, he found that his old friends have all left him, all distanced themselves from him. Then he heard, oh, Telegram is pretty popular these days. He wants to give it a try. So let us help him build a Telegram profile page so they can find more cat friends to talk to. Okay, quite cute. And so what we're building is this. Okay, so this is what we're going to build. I've tried this workshop before once, and building from scratch took too long, and not people got confused along the way, and they kind of like dropped off. So this time around, I gave a template where not everything is there, so we'll still do a lot of stuff, but I think it will be sufficiently challenging, and hopefully will introduce you to the different features that Adobe XD has, so that you can use it for your own application, right? I hope everyone's excited about this because this is pretty cool. I hope everyone finds it cool. I find it cool. Okay. I always enjoy doing prototypes because I think prototypes are the most fun part. But definitely other stages, although it's a bit more dry, it is crucial also to know what you need to design for. So let's take a short 3-minute break. We come back at 11:31. And for those who have not downloaded the stuff yet, let us quickly please download. I'll share the links in the chat again. So once again, you need 2 things. You need Adobe XD. So I'll send to a chat now. You need the template as well as the files. So the files to download is the Adobe template.xd file, the photos folder, and the icons folder. So there's 3 things here. And yeah, please go and have a break. We'll come back at 11:31. I'll do my best to end at 12. I'll try my best. Okay, let's get started. Okay. So I hope everyone has downloaded the files already and has installed Adobe XD. I hope you guys have done this before the workshop started. So let us quickly take a look at how Adobe XD looks like. Okay. So when you first launch the app, let me try to simulate the whole app launching process for everyone. Then let me just share my screen. Holy crap. Can you see my screen? Yeah, okay. So you see something like that. You might not see the things below here because it's like recent stuff. But you might see something like this. So actually, if you want to start from scratch, you can like press one of these and select the dimensions that you want, or you can choose like an iPhone and so on, and then you can generate a new file. But for today, we will use the file that we have downloaded. So hopefully you downloaded it already. I think you can either open it, you can just try to navigate through on your computer, or you can drag and drop the file into it. You can drag it into the Adobe XD application. You open, right? Then you'll see something like this. Okay, I hope everyone's seeing this. Yep. Let me know if you can't. Okay, so I'll be going like a moderately fast pace. Basically what I'll do is I'll kind of do the thing once, then I'll repeat myself. Normally, I'll try to repeat myself, and you kind of just catch it the first time, second time, and try to do it, emulate me lah. I know it might be a bit fast paced for some of you guys. I understand. There'll be recording after this, so hopefully that helps. Yeah. So if you had downloaded the files, you have the folders, the icons, and the photos. So let's try to emulate. So what are we missing here? We're missing a few things in this page, right? We want to do the final design. We are missing the cat photo at the top here, the circular one. We're missing the icons, or the 5 buttons, as well as we're missing the username here, and we're missing some media files here as well. So let's try to fill in these blanks before we try and do the transition link. Okay. So let us start with maybe let's start with the icons. Maybe let's start with the icons first. I feel like that's the easier target. Okay. So what you can see here is that there's few buttons on the left here. Right. I hope you guys can see. I think it's a bit smaller, but basically what you can see is that this is the cursor button. You can use it to drag things around. Right. This is the shape button or square, rectangle rather. The circle button and triangle button, and the line as the name suggests. This is a pen tool, which we won't be using this today. This is a text tool, right? To like do text, right, and so on, which you'll be using later. And this is like the navigator tool, and like this is like creating a new frame, but we don't really need that also right now lah. Okay, so let us try to fill in the blank. So what we want to do is first we want to create a circle, okay, because the button is circular. So you can use the circle tool and you realize, oh crap, but this is drawing an ellipse, right? It's like kind of not exactly a circle. So you just need to hold the shift button, then it becomes a circle already. Just draw any random circle for now. The size doesn't really matter as of now lah, right? Let me try to find it. Okay, so this button can we change it to here? Over here, we go to the right side. You see that there's a lot of properties of the kind of the item you have selected. And you notice that if you select this middle button here, the layers button, you see that you are doing the layers, right? When I click this item, you can see there's a few layers here that's happening, and some of them are groups. Okay, so I don't want to go too much in details into this for now, but let's see the new shape that we added. Okay, let's give it a size of 37 times 37. Okay, so the width is 37, the height will be 37. Okay, so let me zoom in a bit here. To drag, just press the shift, hold down the spacebar button and move around. So spacebar button and then move around. Okay. So here, see below that there's a fill and the border. So we don't really want the border. We want to keep it. Don't want to have border. And then fill, you can want to like, oh, what's the color we should use here? So once again, go down to the bottom left. You can see there's a libraries section. There's a assets actually not really library, but more assets. I've already defined the color for you already. Okay, so you can just press the colors here, and voila, right, your blue button, and that looks pretty neat. Okay, let's just position it around here, doesn't matter. We don't have it be picture perfect. Okay, then next, so we have button, we don't have the icon yet, we add the icon later. Then next we have the text button here. We have the text below, right? Call, video, mute, and so on. So let's click the text here. Text here, we click below. And let's write something like call, right? This one, the first one is call. Just like call for now. And we try to center it. So you drag it, you'll see that automatically Adobe XD is quite smart, right? To tell you where to center and so on. For this one, we want our font size to be, let me just confirm. We want our font size to be font size 11. So you can go to the right side here. You can see there's a few different types of fonts here. You can change the properties of the text. So let's name this to 11. So it's really 17 for me. I don't know, maybe different for you. Choose 11. Then SF Pro text, if this is the one that you have, that's okay. But personally, I want to use, you can press H, Helvetica New. But I know that some Windows may not have Helvetica New, so choose something that looks good to you, doesn't matter. Okay, the one's going to be centered again. Okay, so at this point, you might be wondering like, oh man, but do I need to like repeat this 5 times? Like, because there's 5 buttons, right? That's a bit troublesome. Okay, so it's not really, so what I can do is you can you select these 2 layers together. Okay, select these two layers together. So what you want to do is you press one layer, hold shift and press the other layer. Okay. And let's first group it. We group this. So you right click and you press group. Okay, you can do this right click and press group. Or you can, I repeat myself, you can go to the left side, you go to the layers section. You right click this and you press group. Also can. But personally, since it's here, I can just group here. Okay. Then what you do is you go to the right side. Okay, so now that you've grouped it, they move together as one, which is awesome. What I want to go to is to go to the right side here, the top right, there's this button called repeat grid. Okay, so this is the magic of Adobe XD. You press repeat grid. Okay, you press it. You see that there is these 2 sliders here now. Just go to the horizontal one and drag. And you have your 5 buttons. Okay, it's as simple as that. Right? It's crazy. It's crazy. But you might wonder like, oh man, but like this looks a bit too narrow. Okay, then easy, right? Just drag, just click one of the in-betweens and drag. And voila. Automatically, it is it's spawning. We have 5 buttons here already. Right, incredible. And the good thing is that you can edit the text without modifying any of the, okay, so before that, right, you go to, click any one of these text, any one of them will do. Go to the right side and change it to center. Yeah, so previously it was left aligned, it was left justified. You want to make it just center aligner. Okay, so I hope you can see where my mouse is. You see the bottom here. It's kind of like your Microsoft Word, PowerPoint and so on. Right, then now if you change this, you look better. So you look video, mute. Okay, so these are the terms, search, they will be supporting, and more. Okay, your text is not blue color, you can likewise just select any one of them. Go to the color panel and press the blue button, the blue color button, the blue color here. Okay, and wow, there you have it. You have the 5 buttons ready. Incredible. I like to save once more, just so you can save again, just to be sure. But then we kind of want to separate this. We don't want to keep them as grid. Okay, so what I want to do is we want to press the ungroup grid button here. Why do we not want to keep them as grid? It's because later on, for this screen, we only keep I think 2 of the buttons, right? 3 of the buttons, sorry, 3 of the buttons here. So I kind of want to work with them independently. So I don't want to keep grouping them as grid. So we ungroup grid, and see now we have 5 groups, right? Which is great, right? This is what we want. And let us rename each group to something that's more semantic. So same as coding, right? When you do design, you should try to make it semantic. So this one can be a call button, right? It'll be a video button. You don't just group one, right? That's a bit tough to interact with later on. New button, search button, and the more button. Right. And then let's drag our icons in. So you can see my icons. I already have the named it for you already. So let's first drag the phone. Okay. Don't drop it when something's highlighted. What you do, if you drop it here, you'll replace, this will replace the background. Okay, so we drop it to a side here to where there's no highlight. So I repeat myself again, or two messages. Groups, okay. So you see below, there's these 3 buttons here. I'm going to click the layers. Okay. Then click this frame, which is the screen one. Click the screen. So once again, click the layers. Click the screen, and then you'll see these things here. And then just now, as I demoed, it was that there were kind of one grid, right? What you want to do is you want to ungroup the grid and then rename. Ungroup grid and then rename them to the correct button names. Okay, so let us try to drag and drop the phone.svg. So what's the, some guys may be wondering like, what's SVG, right? I think for some guys who are new to like design and like web dev or like mobile dev and so on, or just development in general, you may be confused about what SVG is. SVG is basically with their vector graphics, and they are basically not really pixels, but more of like mathematically defined lines. So the cool thing about SVG is that no matter dimensions, it will not be pixelated because they're drawing actually lines rather than pixels. So now we draw, okay, so like from Orbital, I can make it as big as I want and it won't be pixelated. So that's why I genuinely want to do SVGs in be it designing or like in building your website, right? Or application. Okay, so once again, once that you dropped it in, you want to resize it. But the thing about SVG is that if you anyhow resize it, you look very weird. So once again, you can move inside. To Pingston's question, yes, you can move inside. But I think for now, I'm not gonna spend much time on the layering, right? I'll just keep it as it is for now. But yes, you're right. You should go into display picture layer. That is correct. Okay. So once again, hold down the shift button and resize it. Just to make sure that its dimensions will always be correct. Like the ratio is correct. If you just resize like this, you look very ugly. So hold the shift button and resize. And then move it to like approximately the center of the button. Right. I mean, so long you're happy with how it looks like, it's great. And there's an issue, right? Clearly, the button should be white color, but like it's black here. So what I can do is go to the fill. So that's another good thing about working SVG in Adobe XD is that you can change the color. Right, so go to the fill, change it white. Okay, once again, a demo. Go to the fill, there's an appearance section on the right side, right-hand bar. Go to fill, click it. You see this color wheel. There's not really a wheel. It's like color panel. Slide it to the top left-hand corner. And done. Okay. And of course, once again, we want to do it semantically. Right, I want to make sure that everything is where they belong. So you see that the SVG actually is interesting. SVG is just a group, because there's actually it's a path actually. More specifically, it's a path. But we drag the whole group. So this thing called phone. You see in the layer, one click layer, layers, the second button here, then see phone. You drag it to the core button, drag into the group. And voila, now if you drag this whole group, you move together as one, which makes sense, right? So let me just repeat while you guys are doing this, I'll just repeat the process for the rest also. Video. Wow, this video is big. Besides it. Okay. Well, it looks like you must even be smaller. So long it looks good, you don't have to be perfect. So we're not trying to build a perfect Telegram clone here. I think actually doesn't need to be perfect. So okay. Once again, it's hold shift button and resize and change it white color. I think this is a bit too big. Okay, yeah, I was the one who saying it's not doesn't need to be perfect, but then I'm doing this. Okay. Next one is mute. Right. Once again, don't drop it when it's like highlighting your thing. I'll show you what it looks like, but drop it and highlight like this, right? If you replace my background. Okay. So let's not do that. Okay, so we have the mute button. Okay, okay. Yeah, so be ready to undo, right? Undo, your buttons, your fingers should be your Control Z or Command Z, right? Be ready. And nice, it's looking good already so far. Okay, self-praise is no praise, but this is looking great. Yeah, you can see Chris' comment on the chat. He has mentioned about it as well. Yeah, Chris is one of the most expert people I know when it comes to development and like building beautiful apps. Very end-to-end stuff, like end-to-end experience. So I think whatever he's saying on chat is all very good advice. Okay, so same thing, search also, change to white color. And lastly, the more button. So the more is just the ellipses. If you drop it and you fly, or it's too big, then just make sure to navigate around. Get used to navigating. Yeah, it's part of the process. In fact, I like Adobe XD so much that sometimes I use it to do other designs as well, not necessarily prototyping. Because it's really very, very powerful. And sometimes it's a bit more consistent than like Photoshop and so on. So once again, hold shift button and then drag it around. Okay, now who's do down cat? Oh my god. Personally, I use Adobe XD more because I find that in most school projects, generally not everyone will do designing together with you. So if you're the only person who knows how to do design, then generally you just use Adobe XD, it's enough. But when you do work with a team, you might want to use Figma. If let's say your whole team wants to do design. So once again, next session I'll talk about Figma. Okay, so rest assured that you'll learn both. So then you'll be versatile, right? You can do both. One Chong, you have a question? One Chong, you raise your hand, right? You have a question? Oh, okay. Never mind. Feel free to send a chat. I'm reading a chat. Okay. So now you have buttons. Looks good already. Let's move on to the next part, which is the we clear the low hanging fruits first. So this part is the we want to have the username. So you realize that actually here, when you click this, right, this whole section gets highlighted. Why is that so? Because this whole thing is grouped together. Okay. Sorry. Before we do that, can we all drag the SVG into the relevant folder first? So like the video button, the video SVG will go into the video button group. And close the group by clicking the file icon here. The mute, okay, so mute is directly a path. So the mute is a bit of a different SVG compared to the rest. You drag in the mute button also, close the thing. Search, drag in the search button, close the thing. More, drag in the more button, close the thing. Yeah, so it's now cleaned up. Yeah, you don't want it there too many. If you want, you can click all 5 buttons. Yeah, I'll do this step twice. And like what Pinkston mentioned in the chat, you can drag this directly into the display picture section. I repeat myself again. Okay, select all 5. So to select all 5, click the first one, and the last one. Hold shift and click the last one. Drag it into the display picture section because, like he mentioned, this is the display picture top part here. So it's great advice by good point by Pinkston. Right. Okay. So now we have cleaned our layers a bit. Right. We can close the display picture folder. We can open up the contact info folder, which is the middle part here. And you see that actually when I first click it, I click the whole folder. So how do I click into the mobile / and the button here and the text here? You want double click. So to do again, I click the thing, I double click into it, and then I'll have selected this item only. As well as I can then hold shift, I press this, I control C, control V, copy paste. Okay, I know they have this advice that popped up here. Don't care. For now, we just do control C, control V. Okay. Okay. So I repeat myself again. Click this, double click into it, press shift and press the other one as well. Control C, control V, and drag it down. Drag down the copy down. And to drag copy down like along a single axis, hold shift button and drag. Okay. So you want to drag it horizontally, you can do this. Can drag it vertically, you can do this. Okay. So shift button helps to make sure that it's fixed along the axis. If not, if you just drag, right, you may you might go off a bit. But doesn't matter. Adobe XD also provides the functionality of like alignment here. So actually, it's even if you do that, it's fine. Right, no biggie. Okay, so once you have this, you just let's change this to username. Sorry. Before you do that, can you guys go to the right hand panel and click left line? So now it's center line. I don't know why it's center line. Click left line. And let's change this to username. Okay. Then over here, the bottom is changed to, let's say, at utowncat. Okay. So wow, this section looks amazing already. Okay. It's really looking good. And maybe let's change the title of this text fields. So instead of mobile label, mainly call this username label. And then this is the username value, right? Note that I'm kind of using some programming terminologies here, like label and value. This will make it easier for you guys also, because I think you guys are also more inclined to coding stuff. And then lastly, okay, I hope this part is clear. Also, if you cannot get this part, it's fine, not a big issue. That's not the fun part, I feel. And let's maybe do the U-turn cat. Let's maybe do the top part first, then we do the bottom part. Okay, I think there's 2 things left before we do the transitions. Okay, I know everyone's excited for the animation but let's focus on getting the design complete first. So now we can go to the go to the photos folder. Let's drag a cat photo down. Once again, don't drop it into this. Drop it to the side. By the way, this is my own collection of photos of Ashley. Just FYI. Okay, anyways. He's so cute, man. Okay, yeah, so if you want to kind of scale it down a bit, the photo is huge. Then this is the first cat photo. Let's say this is his main DP. I know there are better photos out there for him. Let's say this is he wants this to be DP. Okay. Then we just kind of move it down here. Then you might be wondering like, what the heck? Like, it looks so ugly here, right? So yes, correct. It's still ugly right now. And what you want to do is you want to frame this. So let's learn something about paths. Okay. So SVGs are paths also, right? So basically, paths are like mathematically defined paths. You can do kind of like set operations with it. So you can do set union, you can do a set intersection, you can do a set difference, symmetric difference, and so on. So what we want to do is you want to use not the circle, but the square tool. Okay, you might wonder why square tool and not circle tool. You can think about it about why I'm using a square tool now, but later maybe you'll figure out answer. Let's drag a square over our dear SG. Okay. I repeat myself. I'll go to the left hand side, click the square tool. And once again, square can also draw rectangles. It's like the circle can draw ellipses, right? You want to hold the shift button to draw a square. Shift button to make sure it's 1-to-1 ratio. Then once you have a square over the SG, you just kind of like select both layers at once. Select both the square and SG photo. And you see on the right hand side that next to the repeat grid button, there's a few different buttons here, right? You want to click the intersect button here. Okay, so once again, it's the third button from the left, I think. Click it, and wow, we have a crop of SG, right? And okay, then realize also, oh crap, like SG kind of shrunk a bit. So no choice. Once again, to click in, we want to access the inside the contents, right? With 2 ways. You can double click into it to get the SG's photo, and then I resize here. Kind of like this. Okay. Let's move him a bit to the left side. Yeah. Or you can, I'll undo everything here. Once again, I'll demo twice. Or you can click the right hand side here, left hand side on the mat layers. Intersection. You see you can select cat. And then you can resize from here. Shucks, this is a bit. Okay, this way doesn't work. Whoops. Okay, but then this way will be important later on. We need to access the vertical also. So okay, so we double click into SG, and then we resize our dear SG's photo. Okay. Then you say, okay, but then we want a circle, right? Why are we doing a square? So it's a good question. What we want to do is we want to click the rectangle. So once again, layers on the left hand side, expand out, rectangle, then come down to this part. There's this border radius. I think for those guys who have done CSS, this is like, wow, instantly intuitive already. Border radius, amazing. Right, but those that have not done it, like, oh, what's border radius? Basically, you can set the radius of this square. So in this case, we can change the width and height to a, let's say, even number. Let's say I change this to 72. You can use any height and width you want. Then here, I want to set to a half of it, 36. And we have a circle. I'll repeat myself. So you want to change it to an even number so that you can divide 2 easily. I guess you can put a 0.5 if you want. Oops. And then over here, change to half of it, half of 72, 36. And you have the icon here. Of course, you might think this is a bit too small, but once again, I'm not going for perfection here. You can resize if you want. You can say, I want it to be a bit bigger. Sure, I mean, but if you resize this, right, you might want to change the border radius because the border radius doesn't scale up, although the width and height will scale up. So maybe now you see it's 81, I want to change it to 41 now. 82, I want to change it to 41. Yeah. Great, we have the icon on top already. But actually I prefer the just 172 a bit more. Yeah. Okay. And lastly is this part, right? So some guys may already have figured out how to do this already. Right. Some guys like, oh, I figured it out already. Like just now, clearly you have demonstrated how to do it through the different ways. Right. Same thing, what's the best way to do this? I would actually suggest doing this. What we do is we can use the square tool. Right. We click the square tool and we draw a square. Let me see what's the best size for a square. This one I'll just give you guys a number. 124. Okay, 124 by 124. Repeat how I drag the cat into the square. Basically, what you want to do is you drag a photo of the cat here, right? Just use you can just draw a square on it. Select both the cat and the square. So notice that both layers are selected on the left hand side here in layers, and click intersect. Intersect here, and boom. Now the square is like a crop for the. You can think of it as a crop, like it's cropping the cat photo. Okay, then you want to resize the cat. You double click into it. Double click, you can see that if you guys use Photoshop, not Photoshop, PowerPoint, same thing, right? You have the crop. Double click, you can access the crop photo inside. You can move it around, and so on. So double click and play around with it. I mean, you can also move it out of the frame if you want. Move out the crop. Intersect is on the right hand side, next to top right hand corner, next to repeat grid. So you see the repeat grid here. Then you see there's a add, subtract, intersect, and exclude overlap. Okay. Don't worry if you can't follow right now. This part below, you for this media part, right? If you cannot get it, it's fine. But I think it's important that you get the cat thing here. Okay. So again, you get the 124, right? The bottom, the photo is the square is 124. Then do a repeat grid. Okay, some guys may figure it out. I mean, you are doing a grid here, right? It's literally a grid. There's no better way than repeat grid, right? So just do a repeat grid. You kind of drag the thing. You get 3 of the photos. You kind of scale it down to the difference. I think can have keep to 1 maybe. And you drag downwards and do this same thing. You don't have to. You can just do a 1. And what you gotta do now, I think some guys may already figure already, because I talked about the highlighting part so many times, right? What I want to do is you can drag the photo into each of the frame. So let's say I want cat 1 to be here. And cat 2 can be here. Notice that, I mean, they try their best to kind of tessellate your cat photos, but you can drag more than 1. And notice that they are always changing the thing. And wow, it's just that easy. It's repeating already, right? It's insane. You don't need to think about repeating for the infinite grid. They will repeat for you, right? So notice that our cat media file here is done. But okay, but one thing is that there's a border. Notice that there's a border here. Right? So you just uncheck the border. Once again, uncheck it. Just uncheck it before it becomes, and then you have it here. And you have the photo grid below it. Okay, so far so good. I'll view myself again. I'll just delete this part and redo quickly. Right, you just quickly get the square tool, draw a square. Oops. Change it to 124 times 124. Okay, repeat grid. Oops. Just repeat this grid left and right. It's okay to go beyond the frame. You'll get cut off naturally. And then drag in the photos one by one. And so on. Yeah, you can drag as many photos as you want. You can drag other photos as well. And you notice that one thing is that this thing is covering these menus. There's this thing here, actually. You want to move it to the top. So you see layers here. You want to move the home indicator to the top. So the bar is still on top of the cats. Okay. I hope everyone can get to this point. If you can't get parts of it, it's okay. But I think the most important one you want to get is this. Okay, so let's talk about the transitions. Yep. As Tian mentioned, is that this recorded. Okay, so what's next is the transition part. So I think this is part that most people are more interested in. So how did the animation work? So Adobe XD has this thing called auto animate. I believe Figma is something called animate something also. It's also about automatically animating things. What they do is that they check the object identity. Okay, so once again, it's like 2030. Each of these is an instance and they have an identity. They find the objects that are the same identity across the different screens. They check the difference in properties, be it in terms of positions, in terms of size, rotation, color, so on, and animate the change, all the changes. Okay. So what does this mean? This means we cannot just redo this. We cannot just recreate this here. We have to copy and paste it over. Because only by copying and pasting over, right, only then will the animations, only then will they detect the same object. Okay, because you need copy paste to retain the identity. Okay, think of it as 2030. You want to retain the same instance, right? You cannot pass you need pass by reference, right? You pass the reference over. So let's just copy the U-turn cat over here. Okay, this one is the most important one, I feel. I'll just do this one first. The rest I'll quickly just do the rest. I'll just quickly do up the rest later. Then you guys can watch the video if you want or see how this goes. And what you want to do is you want to expand this out a bit. And you want this to kind of expand it to the whole screen, right? To cover up the whole top part here. And move this, of course, try to move this down. So notice that there's under display picture, you open the folder, there's the TP slider, which I'll share a bit more later. There's navigation bar, which is blocked already, and the status bar, which is also blocked. So you want to move this down, move this thing. It's called intersection now. It's a bad name, but don't rename it now. If you have not renamed it, don't rename it now. It may change the identity. If you rename it at one side, don't rename it at the other side. Check it down to below the status bar. Okay. Then you click into this intersection. Right. Open the drop down. Change the rectangle corners to be 0. Okay. But it still be ugly, right? I mean, the status bar is clearly black and it's like can't see it. So what happens, you can just open up. This part is up to you, FY. It's optional. I'll just show you how you can do it. Quickly click through all the elements. So time style can change to click the fill and change to white. Cellular connection, just find the thing that's black and change to white. Click through the items. Wi-Fi, right? Fill also black. Also change to white. Battery is a group. So battery capacity is one item. You need to change to white also. Battery cap is also one item. You also change to black. And battery border, which is a border and not fill, you change to white also. So see the top actually looks a bit better now. Optional, once again optional. Then this part also, the font is all blue. You click the navigation bar, large text, change to white. Okay. And actually, this is more than enough for now. Right. Let's try to see the animation. How do we do animation? Right. So right now, all along we have been on the design tab. Okay, we have been on the design tab here. We want to go to the prototype tab. Okay. And when the prototype tab, what happens is that what I'm handling here is transitions with the animations. So when I click the item, I don't really see the things I don't see the panel to edit it anymore, right? But I see this arrow here. So what does this arrow mean? Arrow means that when I interact with this item, where should this bring me to? So all you gotta do is drag this arrow. Okay, I click the arrow, drag it to the screen 2, right? And you see there's a path here already. And you see that right now is trigger is tap. So means I tap the icon here, you'll bring me to the next screen. And transition is the type is transition. I want to change this. Okay, so this shouldn't be transition. Change to auto animate. Okay. Okay, so once again, I repeat. So you see type transition, change to auto animate. And to do that, to get this thing, the first you drag and drop through here. Change this to easy now. I think easy now is always generally nicer. And voila, you are done. Okay. So let's see what I mean by you are done. You press so top right corner here, you see the play button here. Press it. You see your U-turn cat profile that you just designed. Looks beautiful. You notice that this is clickable. You click it. Oh, something's wrong. Hang on. Give me a second. Okay. Sorry, I know why I did. Because I changed this grouping. Okay, so this once again, this is an example of so let me just redo this part. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake here. Okay. Yeah, so once again, that's why you must be very careful about this. It's a bit tricky. You must make sure that your grouping doesn't change because that becomes a new instance. So once again, I want to, so before I notice that just now, after we copy over, we pasted it into the display picture section here, right? All the way below to the below status bar. So what we want to do actually, we want to, in the first screen one, we want to shift it already. So you shift it down to status bar here, below here. Okay. Then we copy over. Okay. To below status bar as well. Just so you can paste it over. I mean, there's various ways. You can just paste it over here, then drag it down to this part here. Or yeah, I think this is the best way. Yeah, just make sure that it's at the same place. Then just repeat the steps again. Okay, so sorry for this trouble. I made a mistake there. Okay. So once again, in terms of intersection, you want to change the intersection rectangle to 0 border. And yeah, everything else should be the same. Let's see if it works. Once again, prototype. Hey, okay, let's see if it works. I'm not 100% sure. So this part, wow, suddenly I didn't thought this thing would happen. Yep, okay, awesome. Right, you see that our cat zooms in now and it fills out the space. Amazing. So it's quite sensitive to the placement in grouping also. So you can press the back button, go back. I linked that up already. So you can see I already wired up the back button for you. So once again, press the back button. Okay, so what's the difference between choosing transition and auto animate, right? So let's take a look at transition. What does it look like? Transition simply it just do this lah. It just fades. If it's a fading fade out effect. Okay. So I mean, if that's what you want for your one screen to the other screen, sometimes you want that. That's actually what you want. Then you go ahead and do that. But what I like is I really like the auto animate function that makes it very beautiful, because it really helps you to do a lot of the different cut animation and so on. Right. So it's quite simple. It's not so easy, but clearly it wasn't very hard. Right. This is not say insanely hard to achieve. In fact, it might take longer to code this out. Right. So this is the thing. You want to do it fast lah. And then okay, so the rest of the parts here we can kind of do the same thing. Just copy over the sections here. Copy over to this screen and drag it to the correct place. So once again, I say it detects all the differences. So once again, after I copy this user name value and label, I move into the correct folder. Okay. Then same thing here. I copy this repeat grid over here and paste it here. Shift it down. So once again, notice that they will detect that there's the thing shifted down. There's a translation. Right. Drag this down below the home indicator as always, to make sure that it's at the same location. Then let's see what it looks like. Wow, look at it, everything else moves. Right. The only thing that's a bit iffy is that the buttons have fade out, which is not very nice. But unfortunately, you can't have perfection here as well. And of course, you want to go even further, you can say, okay, time to do the rest. I want to move the buttons also. Sure, you can copy these buttons over. Okay, you don't actually need all the buttons. You only need 3 of them. 3 buttons that you want are call, video, and more. So I can just select these 3. Come here, paste them into the group here. I drag down the group here, and I shift them lah. Right. I translate them. So I say this one goes down here. I delete the more text will fade out. If you delete stuff, it will fade out lah. And then maybe as a whole, I want to scale this thing down to a slightly smaller. I'm just gonna do very quickly. You don't have to follow at this point. I'm just demoing how it look like when you have the finished product. Yeah. Once again, delete the video. I want to kind of scale down this this call button also. Don't be perfect. Yeah. Oh crap. Yeah. Then once again, delete the call. Okay, shucks. Okay, yeah, it's gone anyways. Check it down. Oops. Check the group down. Hold shift and resize the group. Oops. And yeah. And let's see what happens. I think the cat can be slightly, the rectangle don't have to be too fat. I think it's slightly too low already. Okay, anyway, this is I'm nitpicking stuff already. Don't have to copy me. But yeah, let's say I have this ready, and I'm done. Right. Start from screen 1. And wow, you see the buttons will move as well, will kind of move over. And there you have it. Right, then you might be wondering, okay, but I clicked just now, I could, okay, yeah, this is extension. For those that need to leave, this is actually this is good enough already. But if you must go, can go already. But let me just do one last screen. So here, so just now we showed that we can kind of go back and forth between two different cat photos. So let's copy this and we click screen 2, click the screen 2 here, copy and paste. Okay, and boom, there's a screen 2 1. Can we release to screen 3 if you want, doesn't matter. Doesn't affect anything. Then let's try to make this cat photo change. So just now we used we had intersection 1. Okay, should have released to cat photo or something, but it's a bit too late. We put the photo here as a cat 1. Sorry, am I in the right one? Yeah, cat 1. Yeah, you can replace image. So if I click it, replace image. Yeah, go to find another cat photo that you like. Let's say I like this one. Let's say I like this one. Right, it looks lazy. Why it's not working? Hang on, give me a second. Or is it some other trick I'm not noticing? Right. Okay. Sorry. I think you must double click in. Seems like it's there's some bit of a bug here. A bit of a difference. Yeah. You double click into the photo. So instead of using the left interface, you want to double click into the photo and change the photo here. Okay. And then notice that I did the slider on top as well. So what you can do is you click into the slider. You can open the group. There's the segment 1, segment 2. You can shift the highlighted one to the right side, like so. Right. Okay. So it overlaps the second segment. Okay. And let's wire up again, once again, and go to, just now we have design, go to prototype now. So we switch between these two quite frequently, like you naturally switch between these two. If you can't follow it, it's fine, it's not a big issue, okay? Then you click into this, click into the intersection 1, and do this thing, auto animate as well, and maybe using this easy now, as always, shucks. Then same thing, this intersection 1 from this side, you drag it back in, easy now as well. And then you can also wire this button to go back. If you want, you can wire the button to go back here. Okay, sorry, I would rather, okay, never mind. Just wire this button, go back here. Okay, so let's see what this means. I mean, intuitively, you can just basically wire each and every button here. So this one can go back here. And you can change between photos. So your cat photo now can go back and forth. Right. Yeah. You just built a Telegram profile for Ashley, right? Okay. Any questions so far? I think Chris has sent some very good resources on the chat. And yeah, if you really want, you can try to do 316 assignment if you want. It has a lot of introduction information about UI UX or UX in general. Okay. If not, feel free to ask any questions from chat on the MS Teams after this. Let me just quickly jump back to my slides and let's finish this up. Okay, just my last 2 slides already. Okay, we're almost done. So thanks everyone for staying with me so far. Really appreciate everyone's patience. I know that I kind of overran the time already. Okay, yeah, I hope I can see the cat now. The back to this. So sure, we didn't build exactly this perfect looking thing. I think it's because this one I prepared it for the workshop. Okay, so if you want to learn more about UX, there's this website called UX Laws of UX, I think, lawsofux.com. I'll run through this again next week as well, because this has something to do with UI already. It's a bit of a, there's a correlation between UI and UX. I mean, when you do your mockups, if your UI skills are not good, generally your mockups won't look that nice also, right? Same for your wireframes as well. So there is some sort of, it goes hand in hand. Your ability to do UX and ability to do UI is related. So this is a bit of both UI and UX and so on. Yeah. Then if you ever need inspirations, you can also go to this website called, sorry, excuse me. You can also go to a website called Dribble. It's brilliant. A lot of brilliant designers in there. Some of them do designs that are almost impossible to build. I'll be frank. Some of them are like, it's just design only. Looks good. Maybe one day in the future it will be possible. Or like some of them are like not feasible, not very feasible, not worth the time. But there are some of them that look quite amazing and not that hard to build. So you can try to take a look at this website, dribble.com. It's a very famous resource as well. Yeah. If not, actually that's all for my session. I would appreciate it if you can give me some feedback. As I mean, I got to do as I say, right? I talk about collecting feedback and everything. So naturally, I want to collect feedback as well. I'll type the link to the chat. Oh shucks, it's a typo. Give me a second. Don't click it. tinyurl.com. Yeah. Yeah, please give me feedback so I can improve for my next week's workshop. I really hope to make it even better, but it may be hard because UI generally is a bit, not say very I feel like UX in general is more interesting because there's a prototyping and everything. But UI, we'll discuss about what constitutes, what makes up the UI and like what are some things we can, what are some elements that we should consider and so on. Yeah. Any last questions before I close this session? Yes, Chris recommend Morbin, right? Morbin is actually a startup by one of our ex-NUS students, alumni. It's a great website. It's a great startup. You can basically consolidate screens from a lot of other different apps into a single place where you can kind of look through and see what are some UX practices that people are doing, like some sort of like UI trends, maybe. Maybe you find that a lot of people are doing this kind of weird, interesting like component button thing. Then maybe I can consider doing my own app, right? So it's a great place to get inspiration as well. Yeah. I know some friends also working there right now at the start. It's quite good. You can always, yeah, it's quite interesting. Okay, any last questions? Okay, if not, let me just stop sharing. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for staying until the end. I see that actually most of you guys stay all the way to the end. This is awesome. Okay, I hope everyone enjoyed the session, both the using Miro as well as using Adobe XD. Okay, you may not be able to use everything now for your Orbital, but trust me that this will come useful. Be like for 203, 216, or any other sort of future project work that you do. They require you to do some sort of design. Knowing how to design will make you definitely a better programmer in general. Okay, it's a bit of a co-related skill. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and hope to see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Yeah, have a good lunch, everyone, or have a good break. Oh, there's a question by Nicholas also. How frequently should the mockups be updated? It's more of a other way around. You don't really code and then update the mockups. Generally, you want to. What question? Oh, shucks. Okay, sorry. So I have two questions that Christopher asked. One question Christopher asked and one question that Nicholas asked. Let me answer Nicholas first. So you don't really go backwards. Generally, after you confirm design, you just build it already. Then you wait for the next cycle. For next cycle, you can get feedback again and find out whether the design that you had last time, was it really better? Did it help? What did it help in? And then based on the metrics collected, you can figure out what's the next objective that you want to work on. So generally, you don't go back to update after you code. But yes, you should iterate on the mockup as you get user feedback from like testing. So you don't want to code too early. You want to build already. Then after that, turns out the mockup is not very good. But of course, you can always just reiterate, and so on. But yeah, may not want to spend too much time on the mockups. This is a bit hard to say. I mean, as you get feedback every round, you want to update the mockups. That's what I can say. So every round, you might update the mockups. For example, like one of the projects I worked on, I did a mockup. Then initially, after we got the feedback, and then we built out the UI and everything already. Then we got some feedback. Then they say, oh, actually, we want to revamp the whole UI a bit. Like this thing that it doesn't make sense to be here anymore because of this new thing that we have thought of, and we want to have a new graph here. And then so the mockup will actually evolve as you go. Yeah, but that's the second cycle kind of. Okay, so do you think the Orbital team should work on their designs up to a high fidelity mockup? Or do you think wireframe is sufficient for them to get started? I suggest working to a mockup. No need to do a prototype. Mockup maybe, because next session I'll also talk about a bit of a design guide, like a design guideline to follow. I think we'll try to, I'm not 100% sure about this. I've not really decided fully confirmed the curriculum for next week, but I'm thinking of doing some sort of design guidelines kind of thing. So yeah, having a mockup allows you to design code more confidently because you know that the colors are fixed, the fonts are fixed. This is just what I need. Right? I don't really think too much. I don't want to code and then think about the colors at the same time. Because generally it's a bit of a different mentality, right? For me, it's like when I code, I struggle a bit to think about the design. But when I design, I can think very well about the design. Yeah. So I recommend at least doing a mockup. Maybe don't need to super high fidelity. Roughly the positioning, the wireframe must be there already. So like the positioning is there, and then the colors and the fonts look good. And then like it's standardized throughout the whole app. Because you want the case where two people build on different screens, right? Then the design is different. Like the style is completely different. Wow, that's too jarring already. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, this depends on your team. If your team can work well just with a wireframe, nothing stopping you, right? Or your team is the kind that wants to build until a prototype, then do a coding. Once again, nothing stopping you. But prototype may take some time, which I don't think is very relevant for, may not be very applicable for Orbital right now. Okay, yeah. I think that's all the questions. Any other questions? Yeah, thanks everyone for coming as well. I really happy to see the attendance. It's quite good. Okay, see you guys. And I'm ending off with just leave any questions you have on MS Teams or on the survey, on the feedback form. Thank you. See you guys. Bye bye.